Yes, Madam Chair, you have the Chair and Vice Chair of the Bond Advisory Committee here to probably make a presentation to you. They have, and with the rest of the
Excuse
committee.
me, Mr. Huckleberry, could you speak up? I'm having trouble hearing. Maybe there's just a lot of people here in the room. Or, I don't know, Robin, if you could turn up the system a little bit, it would help us all. Maybe we could hear a little better.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board, we have in the room today many of the Bond Advisory Committee members. I see many of them. We also have the Chair and Vice Chair. They authored a letter and transmittal to you recommending placement on the ballot in November of 2015, a series of projects and programs. You then, I think, about 2 weeks ago, made a suggestion, direction to staff to include transportation, specifically road repair. We then authored the memorandum that you have in your packet that addresses the issue and places potentially before your consideration 7 different propositions that would go on the November 15 ballot, adding to approximately $815 million. In our analysis, we looked at the parameters that we issue debt by and determine whether or not we could in fact issue that much debt and still remain within the constraints. The primary constraint is that this board has always had a cap on the secondary property tax rate for bonded indebtedness. By the Constitution, it is unlimited, but in order to allow voters and taxpayers to have a consistent payment with regard to bond debt, the board has limited that to 81.5 cents per hundred. We also then, in the board's discussion about road repair, placed the amount of road repair money of $160 million, and we structured that debt so that it would be paid over a 10-year period, which is at least the life of the type of repairs being made. The balance of the bonds were retired in 15 years. The caps can be met during the retirement period, and what you have today before you is the 7 different propositions that were considered by the Bond Advisory Committee, as well as the road repair that you requested be included in this package for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Huckleberry. I would like to invite at this time the co-chairs of the Bond Committee, Larry Hecker and Carolyn Campbell, to present. And as they're coming up, the clerk has informed me we have 97 speakers. We're having a budget hearing starting at 1:30. We will conclude with speakers because we have the rest of the agenda, the board agenda, to deal with. We will conclude speakers at 12:30. So I would ask if you all want to speak, the briefer your remarks, the more people that will be allowed to speak. And with that, Mr. Hecker.
Madam Chair, thank you, members of the board. Madam Chair, there was at least one bond committee member out in the lobby. I wonder if it would be possible for any bond committee members to join us.
Who was it, Larry?
Mr. Dunn, I believe, was out there.
Mr. Dunlap?
Dunn.
Dunn.
Yeah.
Tom, okay.
Good. Madam Chair, members of the board, on behalf of the 25-member Bond Advisory Committee, Carolyn and I are proud to present this regionally balanced, comprehensive bond package. What we're recommending today is the product of a long and deliberative process. In just the past 2 years, we met 19 times. Our meetings were well attended and highly participatory. We received input from thousands of citizens throughout the county. This is a dedicated and hard-working group. And I'd like to say a little bit more about the committee, and I'd like members of the committee, if they would, to stand up and be acknowledged. Membership on the Bond Committee represents diverse viewpoints, backgrounds, and interests. This group was diligent, hardworking in their responsibilities to the taxpayers. If you attended any of our meetings, you will have seen that this is a group with very forceful personalities and strong views. Oftentimes we had healthy, vibrant, and passionate discourse. And while we didn't always agree with one another, we respected each other's views. In the end, the committee was able to set aside their parochial and philosophical differences and come together with a balanced and fair package that we're delivering to you today. I believe this package can serve as a model for community collaboration and compromise. A bond election in November will provide us with a unique opportunity to unite and mobilize the community to take control of our own destiny. You will have the active, grassroots, door-to-door support of neighborhood groups, business leaders, charitable and community organizations, and many others in getting all 7 of these propositions passed by the voters. And I'll conclude, no, actually I won't. There's been a lot of discussion about the oversight, and I want to commend the board for its efforts in creating the Truth in Bonding Ordinance in 2004. It is a model of accountability, citizen oversight, and transparency. And if I could, in 2013, the State Auditor General delivered a report. They did a thorough, intensive audit of the work of the bond committee and the bond program. And I'd like to distribute, if I might, a copy of their conclusions. I left copies on the table over there because I think it's important to know that there's ongoing oversight and accountability, and the voters can be assured that what they approve is what will get built.
Thank you.
And finally, I'll conclude with just the reminder that this isn't the end of the process. This is the beginning of the process. And in the end, it's the voters of Pima County who will decide. And based upon the input that we received at our meetings, the tremendous outpouring of citizen support, I have no doubt that if you put all 7 of these propositions on the ballot, they will be resoundingly approved by the voters.
Well, your enthusiasm is certainly appreciated. If you can limit that so we can maximize the number of speakers, it would be helpful. Ms. Campbell?
Nobody will clap for me. Well, don't clap for me, please. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Carolyn Campbell, Vice Chair of the Bond Advisory Committee. I'm not going to repeat what the chairman said, just reiterate that we've been meeting since 2006 on this bond. There have been so many speed humps or speed tables along the way, the ups and the downs of the economy, mostly downs. We've had the building, more and more building of unmet needs, and we've had the disappointment by many interest groups and citizens that have showed up as their project budgets have been cut, sometimes substantially. But in the end, this bond package is something not only that these groups, citizens, and I believe the voters of Pima County will not only support, but people are actually really excited about this, and I think you'll hear about that today. The other thing I wanted to point out that was a unique part of our bond committee deliberations, as Larry said, there were a lot of different opinions about what's important, what should be in a bond. In the end, we had just about every committee member that supported this package, and in particular, representation from every local jurisdiction and tribal entity was represented on this committee. And as you all are aware, and hopefully the public is, back to the audit, this is really a unique way to bond here in Pima County, and that is we don't have all of the jurisdictions going out each separately to look at their needs, but the county is actually sitting down with all of the jurisdictions, and the county will be bonding for the needs of the individual jurisdictions. And I think that's just such a powerful, democratic, and holistic way to look at it. So I'm here to listen to the people that are here today and hope that you all will get excited about this bond as we are. Thank you very much.
again, if we can
Madam
curb
Chair?
our enthusiasm.
Madam Chair, I'd just like to thank the members of the committee also for their work because it was very difficult. But in particularly, I'd like to thank the 3 representatives of District 5 on the committee, which were Ted Przalski, Brian Flagg, and our Vice Chair, Carolyn Campbell. So thank you all for your work.
And now I'm going to call people 3 at a time, so if I could get you to line up. And again, you can have 3 minutes, but the more you talk, the less other people can. And with that, Esther Sternberg, Dr. Sternberg, and Jan Servilli, and Mayor Bob Walkup, if you're here with us.
Well, while I'm waiting for the others to join me, thank you very much, Madam Chair and members of the board, for this opportunity to speak. I am Dr. Esther Sternberg. I am director of the Institute on Place and Wellbeing at the University of Arizona, linking the College of Medicine, the Arizona Center for Integrative Medicine, and the College of Architecture, Planning, and Landscape Architecture. Prior to coming to Pima County and Tucson in 2012, I was a senior scientist at the National Institutes of Health and section chief there for 26 years. In my 35-year research career on the science of the mind-body-environment interaction, I have authored over 200 scholarly papers and a best-selling book, my Harvard University Press, Healing Spaces, The Science of Place and Well-Being. I have advised the U.S. General Services Administration, the American Institute of Architects, and the U.S. Green Building Council, and other national and international organizations on the importance of place in well-being. My remarks and this written report, which may I give to you now? Oh, sorry. The written report is based on a report that I had written for a retrofit of a forest glen at the Walter Reed National Military Medical Center to improve health and well-being outcomes of wounded warriors on that base. The resulting work has been funded by a foundation, TKF and TIH Foundation, and the U.S. Navy. What we found in this literature review and up until the present is that there is a wealth of research information showing a profound connection between physical and psychological health and views of and experiencing nature. These include reduced anxiety, reduced depression, reduced stress, improved quality of life, improved social ties and community interactions, increased physical activity, decreased obesity, and decreased severity and mortality from those stress-related diseases, such as cardiovascular disease and stroke. One recent study showed a significant reduction in stress hormone levels in people exposed to green spaces, and a large twin study of over 4,000 subjects showed significantly lower depression in the twin pairs exposed to green spaces. The mechanism of these effects may be related to encouraging behaviors that are important in health and also to the direct effects of the benefits of exposure to nature and natural environments and green spaces. That includes sunlight, which reduces...
Out of time.
Okay. In my own decision to move here, I viewed Tucson as
Your time
having
is
the
up.
potential to lead the nation as a health destination of the future.
And you're speaking in favor of the bonds?
I am speaking in favor of health and well-being and the potential for what is being done in the bonds to improve health and well-being for all the community at all socioeconomic levels.
Thank you, Dr. Sternberg. Jan Servilli. And then is Mayor Walkup, he is, okay. Oh, there you are, Bob, okay.
Madam Chair, I just say, just for everybody's knowledge out here, there are 155 members of the audience outside in the auditorium too. So we appreciate everybody being here. We have to try and make accommodations for everybody. So thank you all for coming, but there's 150 more outside. I'm sure that's where the ex-mayor was too. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairwoman Bronson, and all board members. I'm Jan Cervelli. I'm the Dean of the College of Architecture, Planning, and Landscape Architecture at the U of A, and I'm board chair of Downtown Tucson Partnership. And I would like to speak in support of the bond package. I would like to commend the Bond Advisory Committee for getting it right on a comprehensive strategy and a balanced set of proposals. I would like to point out that these proposals really do hit on economic development and the basic employment growth that will impact and attract jobs through the community. So it has wonderful ideas around economic development, workforce development, but I'd like to particularly point out that parks and recreation, natural area conservation, and historic preservation dimensions of this package are also economic development engines.
I'm gonna please turn off your cell phones. This is the second time we've asked. I'm sorry
Thank
to
you. No
interrupt you.
problem. It has been proven through study after study that such investments in infrastructure, and it is indeed infrastructure investments in parks, open space, and recreation, do attract additional private investment in the community. It attracts also a millennial generation and the workforce that we need for our future, as well as additional boomers into the economy. This includes downtown investments as well as investments throughout the county, and that's why the bond package is so well positioned as a comprehensive strategy. Millions of dollars will be attracted in private investment, and I think you heard Dr. Sternberg speak to the kind of savings that will be realized from these investments as well. So I encourage your support and movement to election. I will also offer all the expertise we have at the university to provide the data that shows that these kinds of investments pay off as it goes toward election. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mayor Walker.
Thank you very much. It's my very great pleasure and honor to be here. I'm Bob Walkup, and I live in the city. And I'm not paid by anybody, just so you know. But it's a great pleasure to be here and to talk about such a noble subject as the bond that is going to be, hopefully, submitted to the public to vote on. I was on the city bond committee, and I can tell you for many, many months, we would meet on a weekly basis, that we would bring in groups of people that would promote projects. And our objective was to take all of the projects that were being submitted, to vet them, to examine them in great deal, so that we could bring to you the best of the best. And I can assure you that the projects that come from the city are the best of the best. So I'm here to support the bond. I'm here to support taking it to the voters and letting them speak. And when it gets to the voters, I and Beth plan to vote yes for this bond.
You're speaking for Beth. She's allowing this.
I am speaking for Beth. This is a matter to me of investment in the future. This is investment in improving quality of life. It's creating jobs, and it's keeping the momentum of this region moving forward. So I urge you to favorably consider this, take it to the voters so that they can vote how they see fit. And congratulations to everybody that spent so much time getting to this point. This is a wonderful thing that you're doing for this region and the committee. Thank you very much.
Our next three speakers are as follows: Francis Merriman, Christopher Cole, and Bruce Wright.
Good morning. I'm Francis Merriman, and I'm here to speak for the bonds. 10 years ago, when TRIO, Tucson Regional Economic Opportunities, was formed, we did a blue ribbon plan for the community. Over 6,000 members of the community participated. That original plan was called the Power of Five. It included high-wage, high-knowledge jobs, educational excellence, livable communities, urban renewal, and strategic governance and oversight of collaboration between the public and private sector. Last year, we reaffirmed that plan, and with an emphasis on infrastructure and workforce improvement is that's what the companies in this community need. So to further that end, we need to see support for all 7 of these bonds. The areas that support livable communities, create an environment where the workers of the future want to live, and that's where companies will be, where those workers want to be. We need workers to support those high-wage jobs. Right now, there are over 2,500 jobs open in our region for high-wage, high-knowledge workers that those companies have a difficulty finding. They have to recruit from all over the country and from outside this country because the workforce is now a global commodity. So we need to provide an environment where those workers want to live, play, and educate and raise their families. So my request is that we support all 7 bonds by putting them to the voters to decide. I think there are a lot of people who think you all are going to vote on the bonds today and don't understand it's really putting it to us decide if we want it. So please allow us to decide. Thank you.
Thank you. Christopher Cole.
My name is Christopher Cole. I'm the first vice chair of the Pima County Libertarian Party. And when I'm finished speaking, I doubt I'm going to get a round of applause because I'm going to speak, I think, more in favor of the poor of Pima County rather than selfish special interests. There's 2 ways to...
Let me just, and I'll give you extra time if you need it. We need to abide by the rules of civility. You may not like what a speaker is saying, but don't let him speak, please. Proceed.
There's 2 ways to raise money. There's the voluntary way. Go out and ask people for donations, go to foundations. And then there's a new thing called the internet, crowdfunding, GoFundMe.org, and various and sundry other ways of voluntarily raising money for your cause, your whatever. And then there's the way of coercion and violence, as typified by the government. For all of you people with I support the bonds sticking there on your chest, are you really that comfortable with taking food away from children, pregnant women, and the poor? Because that is disproportionately who bonds hurt. Because the taxes to support the bonds, the taxes to support the interest rate on the bonds, disproportionately hurts the poor and keeps them from being able to find ways to improve themselves and better their lives. So I, not only as a person, am against the bonds, but I'm speaking on behalf of the Libertarian Party. There's got to be better ways to fund these causes, which may be extremely noble and maybe very selfish. But voluntarily going out and getting the money is better for the organizations and better for the people of Pima County. Going for bonds? No. It is not better for the people of Pima County. So I urge this board to find other ways of raising the money. I also will point out that we have this thing called the rule of law, not the rule of whim. George III had the rule of whim. For all of these bond proposals, and also for all of these people and organizations on the consent calendar that are asking for Pima County tax money, taxpayers' money, how about finding the specific reference in the Arizona Revised Statutes or the Arizona Constitution that says Pima County can spend that money on those.
Mr. Cole, can we wrap it up?
Yeah. A specific reference in the Arizona Revised Statutes or the Constitution that says that taxpayer money can be spent on these.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
put it right there so
Thank you.
people can know it. Thank you.
Mr. Wright?
Good morning. I'm Bruce Wright. I'm the Associate Vice President for Tech Parks at the University of Arizona. For the past 8 weeks, a group of 30 business and community representatives began meeting every Monday afternoon to discuss, evaluate, and review the bond package. These groups included the Tucson, Marana, and Hispanic Chambers of Commerce, TRIO, the Southern Arizona Leadership Council, the Tucson Business Alliance, the university, YMCA, representatives from museums, the zoo, and others. After careful consideration, it is the consensus of this group that the bond should be referred to the voters for approval. Furthermore, the individuals and the organizations represented at the table are committed to helping to build public awareness and support for the bond and to help build and secure voter approval. The elements of the bond package that were of keen concern to the group fall into 2 categories: the cluster of economic development, tourism, and workforce development projects. These projects have the potential to help pull Pima County out of the recession and provide a much-needed stimulus to increase and grow and expand our economy. Just as an example of this, citing the university as an example, is that there are 2 projects in the bond that would help the university in its efforts to grow new technology companies in our region and attract new technology companies from outside the region into the U of A tech parks. The second concern was roadway improvements. The roadways are an important part of our economic development capability, and their deterioration stands in the way of our ability to grow our businesses and to attract new businesses into the region. Again, using the university as example, roadway improvements would allow our 50,000 students, faculty, and staff to access main campus safely and efficiently. It would do the same for the 6,500 employees that work at the UA Tech Park and the patients, hundreds of patients that access our medical centers on main campus and at the Keno campus. The bond package is an investment in our future. The projects that are embedded in it will help us to sustain Pima County and Tucson as a livable community and to help build and grow a vibrant economy. We urge you to present the bond package to the voters. Thank you.
Thank you. And now I'm going to call up 4 people. I understand they want to talk together: Betty Stauffer, Margie Mortimer, Karen Fogas, and Randy Mayer.
Good morning. Thank you. My name is Betty Stauffer. I'm with Literacy Connects. And as most of you know, I spend my days every day working to improve this community through literacy, both for children and adults. And while Literacy Connects has no specific interest in this bond, we have a broad interest in the welfare of this community, and this bond would support a very diverse group of needs and a very diverse group of people in our community. I have with me today a broad coalition of many, many supporters. I'd like to ask them to stand. And there are many, many more who are not present. All of us are willing to work to support this bond because we all believe it will help move Pima County forward. Many wanted to speak. There are only 3 others who will speak, and we are going to endeavor to keep everyone's comments to 1 minute. Thank you.
Margie Mortimer, Body on the Island Neighborhood Association, Southside, speaking for Neighborhood Support Network and another coalition who both support affordable housing, job path, open space, neighborhood reinvestment, and the pedestrian safety and walkability project. Barrio Nopal Neighborhood Association supports a $25 million for a neighborhood reinvestment program, a program that has worked at the neighborhood level to help communities build a better quality of life. And I can verify that because our neighborhood has been a recipient of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Bronson and members of the board. I appreciate the opportunity to stand before you today. My name is Karen Fogas, and I am the new Executive Director for Tucson Audubon Society. I moved here in March from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, where I was the CEO of Boys and Girls Clubs of the Sioux Empire for 9 years. I stand here to support the comprehensive bond package presented to you by your Bond Advisory Committee and respectfully request that you schedule a bond election for this November 3rd. In particular, we support the inclusion of $95 million for habitat and open space. As a member of the Sonoran Desert Conservation Plan Steering Committee, Audubon joined with home builders, developers, ranchers, realtors, and stakeholders to put forth recommendations to our elected officials on a county-wide growth plan that would provide regulatory protection and certainty to homeowners, businesses, and the county for decades to come. Open space lands are also needed to attain the goals of the broader Sonoran Desert Conservation Plan by providing accessible scenic and recreational open space parks and preserving all of the county's biodiversity and water supplies. $95 million for habitat and open space will be a wise investment in our future and our continued quality of life. I'm also here to support other needs-based projects for working people in our community. Please include in your bond package fully funded neighborhood reinvestment, affordable housing, and a new home for Job Path to train workers and place them in good jobs. Most importantly, please present this comprehensive bond package to the voters in November. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, supervisors. It's good to be with you once again. My name is Randy Mayer, pastor of the Good Shepherd United Church of Christ in Sahuarita. I am here representing Pima County Interfaith, Southern Arizona Interfaith, and of course the Bond Coalition. Early in life, a teacher taught me the concept of leaving a room better than you found it. Now, scouts have turned it to say, leave the campsite better than you found it. I'd like to think that this very simple concept can be applied to really any situation, even our county. Imagine stepping out of our self-indulgent, self-centered world for a moment and saying, I want to leave this community, this county, better than I found it. That is precisely what this bond is attempting to do. The Sahuarita Food Bank and Multi-Service Agency Service Center does that, or will do that better as we work with the poor in our community. Over 300 to 500 people are using that food bank a week. The Building for Job Path does the same thing, moving people out of poverty and into productive, meaningful jobs. The bond, if passed, it will preserve open space. It will allow our community to breathe. The bond will help preserve and enliven some of our historic neighborhoods. It will strengthen our parks. It creates a strong, inviting economic viability in southern Arizona. Leaving Pima County in better shape than we found it will in itself promote tourism. And so I encourage the Board of Supervisors to put the bond on the ballot. Let the people decide. In PCIC, Pima County Interfaith, and the Arizona Interfaith, we have 30 or more congregations. That's over 30,000 voters. From Marana to Green Valley, we will be pounding the pavement to make sure that this bond passes. Because we believe that leaving Pima County in better shape than we found it. And we hope that you as supervisors can also join in that mantra, leaving Pima County in better shape than we found it. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speakers are Gary Davidson, Sarah Frost, and Gary Braub.
Madam Chair,
Supervisor Elias.
I just wanted to comment that I certainly appreciate us having someone here to sign those comments made by this coalition of people that support issues to the bond. That's a very important statement about diversity and what we're all about here in Tucson. So very proud to have you here. What's your name? Andrew Tolman is his name. Let's thank him for being here today.
Madam Chair, members of the board, my name is Gary Davidson. Good morning. I'm a member of the Bond Advisory Committee. I chaired the Parks Subcommittee. I was on the 1997 Bond Advisory Committee. I spent 13 years on the County Parks Commission. I chaired the Rito Regional Park Citizen Advisory Committee. You might say I'm a parks advocate. It's a real problem in our community and something I've worked hard for over a number of years. However, as a member of the Bond Advisory Committee, I have to say I have a bigger issue to deal with, and I think you all do also. And that is, what does the total package that we're wrestling with here do with our community? There are many nice people here promoting nice projects, and they're individually very worthwhile, and I've advocated for a number of them. I really hope that we could put together a reasonable, prudent, financially disciplined, geographically balanced bond package addressing real long-term community needs while being respectful of our community's stressed taxpayers. I'm sorry to say that I don't think the package we have here does that. This is my opinion. Obviously, it's a minority opinion. I don't think it's reasonable or prudent. It is $815 million, 50% larger than the largest bond package in county history. It will raise taxes when 20% of the people with mortgages in our community are still underwater. Notwithstanding its huge size, it is not geographically balanced and ignores real long-term parks needs through broad swaths of our community. It is not financially disciplined. I have seen estimates that O&M alone will run $29 million a year, while at the same time you are grappling with freezing hiring and discussing closing libraries and other issues that I know are very real that you're having to grapple with. Well, think about what the O&M impact is going to be on the county and on the rest of the communities. The city of Tucson is grappling with many of the same issues because of O&M. They've had to close pools before, something I am very much not in favor of, but they've had to do it. Instead of a modest package addressing real needs, the debt and O&M that's going to be put on our taxpayers already dealing with rising taxes, water and sewer rates. Now, I know that you all have big responsibilities. I think some of these topics are actually going to be addressed today. Libraries, sewer rates, from what I heard last meeting. And I hope that you will sit back and look at the total impact of this package. And to say, well, I'm just going to put it to the voters, to me is not right. You have a higher responsibility as leaders to say what is the total result of this package. I think a modest package could have been put together addressing real needs. This is my opinion. I obviously was outvoted. I know there's a lot of nice people here I worked with. I like their projects, but to me it's just too large. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Supervisor Elias.
I certainly will.
You cited a figure of 29 million for maintenance and.
That was an estimate I saw.
Who wrote that estimate?
That was one of the members of the Bond Advisory Committee. And you can check his numbers. Maybe it's only 15 million. It's
Right.
something. I don't know if Mr. Huckleberry.
So we don't really know what that calculation was about or what it took into account or what you're really saying here. Is that correct?
That may be, no, that's not correct.
Okay, then tell me.
Mr. Huckleberry may have a total that he could give you. This was an estimate put together by a member of the Bond Advisory Committee who may talk to you later about how he put the numbers together. I only had 3 minutes, so I didn't go into all the details of it. You can't believe that there's no O&M attached to an $815 million package. So if you have a different estimate, that's fine, but it's real money.
I was just wondering if you could make a citation, but it's okay.
No,
Thank
it was a member of the Bond Advisory Committee.
I think we have the information.
And that's being handed
Sarah
out
Frost.
to us now. And I'm sure.
Go ahead.
Good morning, Chair Bronson, members of the Board of Supervisors, and Mr. Huckleberry. My name is Sarah Frost, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Banner University Medical Centers and our South Campus Administrator, as well as a Pima County citizen. I appreciate the opportunity to speak and to continue to share our support of the November 2015 bond election. I've previously shared a lot of the wonderful things that previous bonds have done from the 2004 and 2006 bond dollars. The future bond election includes critical healthcare expansion to Banner University Medical Center South. These additions will enhance programs and training opportunities made possible and is designed to build upon the solid foundation by those previous bond dollars. South Campus is now a comprehensive medical center and hospital and Southern Arizona's newest academic medical facility. Currently, the only hospital located south of Broadway in Pima County, the provision of medical services, including emergency, trauma, and psychiatric care, is vital to a large section of Pima County. We began our graduate medical education program in 2009, and since that time have graduated 104 residents among 6 different programs. 45% of those graduates have remained in Arizona, while 38% of those physicians remain here in Pima County. South Campus has continued to evolve and grow into a thriving healthcare campus. Volume in all areas of the facility has significantly increased, demonstrating the patient care needs of our communities, as noted in a recent memo sent by Mr. Huckleberry to the Board of Supervisors. There are many benefits for this November 2015 bond election, and I will name just a few. Ensuring that appropriate access to health care is provided to our residents, meeting and exceeding the healthcare demands of our patients, accommodating future population growth in Southern Arizona, allowing for the training of residents, medical students, and allied health professionals in a medically underserved area, increasing the number of jobs in Pima County, resulting in economic development opportunities, and lastly, Banner University Medical Center South is in the location within proximity to critical infrastructure with the proposed November 2015 bond election. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Brunson and Board of Supervisors, Mr. Huckleberry. I'm here representing the business community. I'm a member of the Chamber of Commerce, SALC, and TRIO. And from what you can see here and from my exposure in the community, the business community of Pima County is very behind this package. And I implore you to put it before the voters. I think you're going to get overwhelming support for this bond package. It's critical for the county to invest in the infrastructure and economic development of the community, and this bond package goes right to the heart of that, and it's essential to keep moving this county forward. You can see development in our cities to the north, and they have invested heavily in infrastructure. We need to do the same thing in Pima County to ensure that our economy starts to grow again because we have a lot of the basic elements to take advantage of that once some of these improvements are in place. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speakers are Damian Alexander, Joe Bogart, and Leah Marquez Peterson.
Nice to see you all again. Could I ask everybody?
Your tie isn't nearly as entertaining as last time.
Thank you, Sharon. Could I ask everybody against the bond issue to stand up for just a second? Against. There you go. Okay. I want to first say thank you to all of you because this is part of the public dialogue, and your voice matters, and it's great that we have that level of accountability. And I just want to say again, thank you for coming out. Can I ask everybody who's for the bond to please stand up? Whoa! That's like everybody here almost, except for the 5. You can sit down. Thank you for the time, everybody. Oh, by the way, Supervisor Valdez, 2 weeks ago you said to me, you bring me a packed house, a line out the door, and around the block, and you would seriously consider a yes. So I did what I said I was going to do, and it's only the start of what the cycling community and what I'm going to do to get the vote out. So thank you. It's been great to be here once again, and thank all of you.
Okay, Mr. Bogart.
I want to thank you all for the opportunity to speak here. I'm all about the money. I always have been on the I am a member of the Bond Advisory Committee, and also I'm a minority view and opinion. But what I want to point out is, and I haven't, everything that I've heard here is $815 million. That's just the beginning of it. When I talk to people out on the street, I say, well, what's the cost of the bond? $815 million. It's not $815 million. You've got, as they say, 4% to 8% on interest. That doesn't sound like very much, but when you put it up, that's $313 million. Now you're over $1 billion on this bond. That's fact. Then you look at operating costs. I gave you a list there of how I figured the operating costs. It's based upon county reports given to our committee. 53% of them, which they were all supposed to have operating costs attached to them, only 53% of them did, so I had to extrapolate to the others. It tells you how I did that. I come up with, and it really depends, it starts off because I take a percentage each year. That 10% of the bonds are going to be issued each year. So the bonds actually run for about 24 years when the last one is paid off, because the last one will be issued 10 years out. In that time, I come up with, using that, $689 million in operating costs. I think I'm conservative because I'm basing it on what the Bond Advisory Committee actually voted on, and that was $640 million. Okay, plus I didn't add anything for the roads after we build them. I didn't add any in for that, so I think I'm conservative on that figure. But can our community actually support $1.8 billion? If you go at 8%, add another $200 million to it. Okay? Second of all, I look at these two figures right here, 39 million, 72 million. This is the range that the road improvements are going to cost us. Now this body has the authority to tax, to put a sales tax on for this. And rather than put a sales tax which has no interest involved in it, you are willing to tax another $39 to $72 million. That's it.
Thank you. Ms. Peterson?
Good morning, Madam Chair, Board, and Mr. Huckleberry. My name is Leah Marquez Peterson. I'm the president of the Tucson Hispanic Chamber, here representing our 1,100 member businesses. And I'm here today to support the referral of the $815 million bond to the ballot. I commend the Bond Advisory Council Committee for volunteering their time to this very important issue and the amount of time they spent on that. We also applaud the recommendation by Administrator Huckleberry of the additional $160 million for road repair. Mr. Huckleberry has mentioned in the past that about 60% of Tucson and Pima County's roads are in poor or failed condition, and that the $1 billion to fix them simply does not exist under the current funding formula. So we're encouraged by the significant amount of the proposed bond that is directed at promoting job growth through road improvement, economic development, tourism, promotion, and workforce development. We're also heartened by the county's focus on further strengthening our aerospace, logistics, and technology sectors. While the county has said that the average $152,000 home would pay approximately $68 per year to support the debt repayment, our chamber remains concerned about the overall tax burden, particularly given predictions of higher taxes from many jurisdictions locally, including school districts. We are prepared, however, to encourage the county to refer the bond to the ballot, even though, as a general principle, we do not believe that bonding is the proper mechanism for road maintenance. And there are a couple of reasons we've swayed from that general principle. First and foremost, we believe this is one of the only short-term solutions that will generate the necessary resources to reverse the deterioration that we see today across the region. We also think the county administrator's plan is based on the premise that the county would maintain its self-imposed secondary property tax limit of 81.5 cents per $100 of excess value, allowing our members greater predictability in their tax burden. And lastly, the county administrator has agreed to reduce the tax repayment period to 10 years, ensuring the debt repayment will be completed by the time repairs are needed again. So that is why we are here today, to support the referral of the bond to the ballot. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speakers are Brad Johns, Dane Wall, and Zachary Crampton.
Good morning. My name is Brad Johns. I live at 5935 North Camino del Conde. I sit on the Planning and Zoning Commission. I have a bachelor's degree in economics, a master's degree in business administration, and I feel like I'm crashing a party. Unfortunately, I'm playing an unusual role for me. I'm usually the marketing guy who comes in with great ways to spend money, but now I'm more like the accountant in the back saying, how are you going to pay for all this? So the point I'd like to make is we're in the 6th year of an economic recovery according to the National Bureau of Economic Research, and it really doesn't feel that great in Pima County. Our employment number of people actually working is fewer than in 2007. Our inflation-adjusted wages are actually lower than they were in 2007. We have 60% more debt per capita, and these are numbers from the adopted Pima County budgets 2007-2008 compared to 2014-2015. 60% more debt. So I think we've been talking a lot about taking on additional debt this morning, and despite a number of very worthy sounding causes, if taking on debt improved the economy, we'd be doing a lot better right now than we're doing. We've also taken on a lot of that debt to pay for wastewater treatment based on population growth levels that never have been achieved. We actually have some of the slowest growth rates that we've had in the last 20 or 30 years. We added 6,000 new residents last year, or 0.6% population growth. So a lot of these projects are predicated on a basis that we're going to continue to grow at 1% per year. And in fact, if you looked over the last 5 years in Pima County, besides not growing wages, not growing jobs, we actually haven't grown that many more people. We've also, in the same period, increased our primary property taxes 16% last year, and we've doubled our water rates. So with all of that said, is this really the time to take on $800 million or more expenses down the road? Because as we point out, this is the 6th year of an economic recovery. The average recovery lasts 8 years. So sometime in here, all these econometric models that say we're going to continue growing are going to be wrong. And we're going to have to pay this debt before we can provide vital services to our residents. So while a lot of these projects are very worthwhile and are very nice people presenting them, the fact of the matter is we can't afford them all, and it's really not the time to take on this kind of debt. So I thank you for your time.
Chair Brunson, members of the board, appreciate your time. Dane Wall, YMCA of Southern Arizona, and I'm going to change my remarks after some of the speakers that are there. I want to talk a little bit about public-private partnerships. We were a recipient in the 2004 bond. By having a partner like the YMCA, it saves the county about $800,000 a year by having a partner that takes some of the risk reward on that. So as you look at some of these projects, I'm hearing a lot about O&M. I think my stance would be that this is going to save Pima County money out of the general fund over the long haul. I started going to bond committee meetings in 2007 for an 2008 bond, and then it was going to be maybe 2010 or 12 or 14. As someone that works with a large percentage of the lowest income population in Pima County, I can tell you Families are having a tougher time today, not an easier time than they were in 2007. Your commitment to put this on the ballot and the voters' commitment to pass this is going to help those that need help the most. I believe it's going to spur economic development short-term through construction, long-term through adding jobs in the organizations that are involved, and most importantly, it's going to make Pima County a better place to raise our families and children. Thank you.
Thank you. Zachary Crampton, are you here? Zachary Crampton. Okay, let's move on to the next speakers. Richard DiBernardis, Tom Warren, Larry Lucero.
Madam Chair and Board of Supervisors, and Mr. Huckleberry, thank you for the privilege of getting up here to speak on behalf of the bond today. My name is Richard DiBernardis, and I am the proud founder of the El Tour de Tucson for 33 years. Prior to coming to Tucson, I was an instructor at UCLA in the field of learning disabilities, and then went on to the University of Alaska and helped start the first college for Eskimos up in the Kuskokwim Yukon Delta. In my field, I try to work with people to teach them how they can cope with society so they can become a better functioning person. When I came to Tucson in 1981, I found a community where we can actually take a community and make it more healthy just through bicycling. But I'm not here to speak as a bicyclist. I'm here to speak as an educator. I'm here to say that the projects that we have are so important, every one of these projects. Not one is more important than the other. We need every single one of these projects for the economic development of our community. You need to spend money so we can make money. We need it for the economic development and for the health of our community. Gabby Giffords, one of our members who rode El Tour de Tucson, last year she rode the 11-mile fun ride. This year she said publicly on national television, she is going to do the 40-mile event. This ride is for people who need it to make themselves healthier and to make our community healthier. We will get every one of our 25,000 people, 4 billionaires, 487 millionaires, and the rest of those 24,000. Every single one of you in this community are like us, working hard. We will get these people out there to pass this package. Please don't do it in segments. Put us all together, because together we will get this bond passed. So I'm here to implore that you put this bond package on the ballot this November, and I thank you for giving me the privilege of working for you. Thank you very much.
Tom Warren, local business person, and I'm on the bond committee representing District 2, and also I was on the City of Tucson Bond Committee since its inception. I'm going to be very candid as to where we are right now. We're not in a good situation in southern Arizona. Our building starts are the same as when we came out of the RTC days, the debacle of the SNLs, and the rest of the country is experiencing much better growth and wage growth. In 2013, the City of Tucson, I can't speak for the whole county, I know that their average wage went down 5%. And what we need to do is invest in our future. Over half of the bonds are directly related to economic development. We'll truly get a return on investment. And it'll increase taxes, but it's a different way to increase taxes than what you hear today. You increase taxes by increasing wealth, by value of houses, by jobs, by more sales tax because money being spent, and that's what these bonds will do. They were very well crafted. We spent a lot of time on it, and I think Vice Chair Campbell hit it on the head. Every jurisdiction was a part of this, and we were truly a democracy. We really exhibited ourselves as democracy. The other part of it is quality of life for the most important segment in our community, or any community as far as I'm concerned, that's our youth. As far as parks, those types of things, and education, they're all geared to it. And they're also geared to the arts. When companies come here, one of the things they look at is the arts. Even though the arts are in the city of Tucson, we did a study, and 78% of the people that patronize the arts are in the county. Most of them in Green Valley, 18 zip code and 50 zip code. So I implore you today to really help the county, help all of us, help the people that are struggling, help those that are poor, because jobs is the best thing that can happen to any of us. And also, the work will, if you do vote positively today, the work will just begin. The work is going to be very difficult, very hard. We all need to join together, and we can do that. And myself being on the City Bond Committee, I will work very hard to get half of the voters in the county to get out and vote for it. And we can afford it. Through these bad times, the county manager and his staff have done an excellent job in handling the finances, and the rating agencies are scared to death after the debacle that happened in our economy. They're scared to death to give a good rating, and the county manager has an excellent rating for our bonds. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Larry Lucero, are you in the audience? Oh, there you, I missed you. How could that happen?
Madam Chair Bronson, members of the board, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak. Larry Lucero with Tucson Electric, your largest property taxpayer in the county, and we've raised that issue with you in the past, and to our great satisfaction, we've had a tremendous amount of dialogue with members of the board as well as with county staff with respect to our interest in making sure that the investments that you make are well made and are prudent. And I'd like to also thank the co-chairs, Carolyn and Larry, for their efforts in weaving together a tremendously diverse group of individuals who had very wide opposing opinions, but were able to come to you with a package that I think deserves your support to be set for election in November. And so I appreciate the efforts of the committee and all of the hard work that they took to put this package together for your consideration. I know there was a lot of diverse opinion on that, but with all of that hard work, I think you've come up with a package that makes sense for our community, and we're pleased to support the effort, the investment that you will make in this community. It's very important, and I encourage you to set it for a vote in November. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Our next speakers are Kurt Wadlington, Michael Hanley, and Michael Bilsma.
Chair Bronson, members of the board, Mr. Huckleberry, I'm Kurt Wadlington with Sun Construction, past chairman of the Tucson Metro Chamber, currently co-chair of the Construction and Design Market Sector Partnership that was organized by the Pima County Workforce Investment Board in order to promote job growth here in our region. I was here several weeks ago and spoke to you suggesting that you should add a road repair provision to the bond election, and I'm pleased to see that you did that. It shows that you're listening to the voters. There certainly is an overwhelming public sentiment that roads need to be addressed as part of this bond, and I think that's a very important consideration. But the rest of the 7 questions also deal with economic growth and development here in our region, which is equally critical. And I think it just is great that Pima County continues to be a leader in providing incentives to be able to grow our region economically through debt financing. The 2004 bond election was a great example of that, and I encourage you to continue that tradition by adding this to the November ballot. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Michael Hanley, President, CEO, founder of Bank of Tucson. Anytime you have debt, you look for repayment. You look for your return on investment. I represent the Tucson Zoological Association, which supports the zoo, one of our finest areas for families, over 600,000 visitors a year. When I go through the economic stimulus that the Tucson community needs in Pima County, we have a train but no engine. We have interest rates at the lowest level that we'll ever see, I think, again. This is the best opportunity that we have for any debt financing to help the whole community of Southern Arizona. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Mike Bilsma. I'm Vice President of the Board of Trustees of the Tucson Museum of Art. And I apologize for the tie, Chair Bronson.
It's perfectly decent tie.
I have a high hurdle to pass. Over the past several weeks, you've heard from hundreds of citizens, businesses, and community leaders advocating for a public vote on the bond proposal. You've also received a thorough and well-reasoned analysis by the county administrator with a recommendation that you call a special bond election on November 3rd. Every one of the 7 bond propositions addresses the county's needs for job creation and economic development and for making Tucson attractive as a place to visit, locate a business, and live. I ask that you support the recommendation. Your vote today is not whether or not to raise property taxes or endorse any of these particular projects. Instead, it is solely a vote about letting the citizens of Pima County decide those questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speakers, Michael Varney, Alex Bissett, and Richard Underwood.
Good morning, Madam Chair, honorable supervisors, and County Administrator Huckleberry. My name is Michael Varney. I'm the President and CEO of the Tucson Metro Chamber, an organization comprised of 1,450 businesses representing 180,000 employees. Today I'm speaking on behalf of those businesses and the Tucson Metro Chamber Board of Directors in support of the Pima County bond proposal. After reviewing the proposal, the Chamber's board has given its recommendation that the bond proposal be put on the ballot for voter consideration. I have stood before you on prior occasions to communicate the need for road repair and for private and public sectors to work together as closely as possible to create 21st century jobs, business opportunity, and quality of life in Pima County. The Tucson Metro Chamber is very pleased with the attention paid to these areas of community need in the bond package and commends the Bond Advisory Committee for its vision and its responsiveness. The Tucson Metro Chamber views the entire bond proposal as an investment in our community and in our quality of life. We commend the Bond Advisory Committee, supervisors, and County Administrator Huckleberry for their diligence and thoughtful planning in crafting the many dimensions of this visionary package. The Tucson Metro Chamber looks forward to working with the voters, the Pima County Board of Supervisors, County Administrator Huckleberry, and county departments to realize improvements and to position Pima County for greater economic prosperity in the decades to come. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Board of Supervisors, my name is Alex Bissett. I live in Oro Valley. Having had a long career as a professional mining engineer, I've been responsible for digging more holes than a few holes in the ground. During that time, I witnessed a number of companies as well as individuals dig themselves into holes of a different kind. That is financial holes, hence the philosophy. When you're in a financial hole, it's time to stop digging. Ladies and gentlemen, Pima County is in a financial hole with twice the debt of all the other counties in Arizona put together. Now, a new bonding to the tune of $815 million have been proposed. This would mean that our debt would no longer be twice the debt of all the other counties put together, but rather 3 or more times. Yes, we are digging ourselves into a deeper and deeper hole. Our taxes would rise even more. For myself, combining my property tax increase as well as the increased assessment value of my home, my taxes are now scheduled to rise 50%. With the new bonding, they will increase again. Do we want to join Jefferson County, Alabama, Boise County, Idaho, and the cities of Detroit, Michigan, and Stockton, California, all of which have declared bankruptcy, as well as New York City and Chicago, each of which is hovering on the brink of bankruptcy? We are on the verge of taxing and spending ourselves into a very dangerous situation. What has happened to us? Are we following the leader of our federal government that has dug us into a financial hole that we may never get out of? Or are we following the lead of so many of our millennia that can barely make their mortgage payments, but must buy that new car or take that fancy vacation and have nothing put aside for retirement. Here are a few suggestions. At least consider zero-based budgeting. Learn to distinguish between want and need. Say no to it would be nice to. For instance, a bicycle velodrome, whatever that is. Don't even think about more land acquisition, taking land out of the tax base and adding it to the cost of debt. Say no to most of the other want items. In short, maintain what we have and do what I tell my grown-up kids. Watch your spending. And believe it or not, they've listened to me. Make the continuation of the county administrator's contract contingent upon cleaning up our financing and taking care of our real needs, and that is roads. Members of this board need to be the adults in Pima County and take responsible by either voting this bonding down or reducing it significantly. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good morning,
Good morning.
supervisors, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Huckleberry, y'all. Thank you for letting me speak today. My name is Richard Underwood, and I live at 4038 North Star Park in Pima County. I'm a member of the Southern Arizona Leadership Council on the Board of Directors for the Tucson Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce, Advisory Board for the College of Architecture, Landscape Architecture and Planning, and Board of Directors for Canyon Community Bank. So I have my finger on the pulse of the economy of this community. And I want to tell you, every one of those endeavors I got have just been slapped by this last recession. But we're going to be okay. The issue before us today, as I see it, is an economic development and quality of life. You know, first of all, economic development. We secure Raytheon. We protect our airport. I'm on the Tucson Airport Authority, and I tell you, we're struggling down there, and we could lose even more flights if we don't have adequate transportation in and out of there. Jobs. Our best and brightest are leaving this community in droves. On a personal level, my youngest just got his MBA from Stanford, and he can't find a job commensurate with his education here. And it breaks my heart. He said he could afford to come work for me if I'd give him my company, but I'm not quite ready for that. He probably will do a better job. I think charitable giving. I think my bona fides on charitable giving are pretty well established here. Myself and Cody Ritchie and Tucson Metro just recently gifted the county, the city, with the First Impressions Project down at the airport. There's $350,000 in charitable giving from the business community, $150,000 of AAA landscape money. Did I say we have over 600 employees in Tucson, San Antonio, and Phoenix, and we have 250 right here in Tucson? I believe in giving back to my community. You know, Roy Drackman told me years ago, give where you live, because we get by taking in each other's laundry. When times are hard, you won't get any laundry. Times have been hard here. I think it's very important for the quality of life in a low-wage community that profitable businesses give back to the community. Prior to this recession, AAA just in Tucson was probably doing $250,000 to $300,000 in charitable giving every year. Up until this First Impressions Project, we could do $25,000. It was, it was a stretch.
Your time's up. Wrap it up quickly.
Okay. In conclusion, there's just a plethora of reasons that we need to pass this. Economic development, charity, quality of life for all the people in this community that don't have a job, and it's opportunity to create more jobs, and high-paying jobs create more jobs. The multiplier effect is huge. So, y'all, please put this on the ballot.
Thank you. Sherry Hoskinson, David Cohen, and David Welch.
Hi, thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Sherry Hoskinson, and I'm a resident in Pima County in City Tucson in Ward 1 of the city. And I'm speaking on behalf of members of my community and also professionally. Members of the Ward 1 community have worked for years on initiatives represented in this bond package. Specifically, but not singularly, the Parks and Recreation requests, which mean that families and communities can enjoy the best of our Tucson outdoors, sports, recreation in safety and in comfort. Many of these families are two-parent working families and can't be here, but just as a representation, over 100 letters have been sent to the members of the board just by Western Little League families in support of the bond package that would benefit their park, the Joaquin Murrieta Park, and also stating their commitment to work to pass the bond if it's put on the ballot in the fall. In a different role with the University of Arizona's Tech Launch Arizona, I work daily and moment by moment to create new ventures and new companies to build this region. And an improved Pima County is important to that. It's important to all community members, economic growth, and more importantly, something we don't hear very much about is economic resiliency. It is through the wealth creation, and it is imperative and can be achieved by investing in these regional initiatives. It is true that we live in a global economy, and Pima County will either be a competitor in that global economy or it will languish. Thank you.
Thank you. David Cohen, David Welch, are you in the audience? David Cohen, David Welch. All right. Then let's move on. Tom Dunn, Albert Lannon, and Alonzo Morado. Alonzo left. Oh.
Thanks for your time. You know, I actually drove back to Marana and came back. You guys are still talking.
No, we weren't talking. We were listening.
So there's a couple things. I'm Tom Dunn with Arizona Builders Alliance, and we're a commercial construction trade association. We represent thousands of contractors throughout the state. And now is a good time financially for debt. Rates are at the lowest, historical lows. Also, the cost of building and constructing is at historical lows. So if you're going to do this now. If you put it off 5 or 10 years, it will cost you twice as much for half of what you would get. On the other hand, I am the president of the board of directors for the Marana Health Center, MHC Healthcare, and there are underserved in this community that need help, and the bond does represent the needs of the community there, so thank you on that. And also, I served on the bond committee representing the town of Marana, and there are some concerns that we have on there are some submissions to this bond that have concerns with operation and maintenance of their projects, so just take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Albert Lannon. Oh, there you are.
My name is Albert Lannon. I live in Picture Rocks, and I'm a member of the Abra Valley Coalition. I'm 77 years old, and I have voted for every bond measure I could for over 50 years. Not this time. We in unincorporated Pima County will, according to your analysis, pay 42.7% of the costs for just 32.1% of the benefits. And some of those so-called county-wide benefits are questionable. Building a Y for the Fortune 500 companies at the U of A Tech Park, $30 million for the Sonoran Corridor. That Sonoran Corridor is the single largest project expenditure and now the third largest line item. As members of the Bond Advisory Committee have noted, there is a real question whether public money should be used to build a highway for a private corporation with a $500 million quarterly profit. But at least there's an argument for linking Raytheon, the tech park, the airport with I-10 and I-19. Unfortunately, that's just phase 1 of the proposal as written. Phase 2 drops the Sonoran Corridor south along Diamond Ventures' unbuilt Swan Southlands development. Phase 3 turns west to I-19 to link up with the county administrator's proposed Interstate 11 route that would destroy the Avra Valley. As we have shown you time and again, his office continues to use Sonoran Corridor and I-11 interchangeably on the maps it puts out. Phase 3 also duplicates the 6-lane El Toro Parkway already in the works with Sarita and ADOT. Duplicate highways instead of fixing potholes? You can understand why we think the Sonoran Corridor is a backdoor into an Abra Valley I-11 that threatens communities and wildlife. That's why hundreds of people have pledged to vote and campaign against any bond measure with I-11 in it. The town of Benson faces massive changes because of a decision made by a few people 23 years ago. Please don't make the same mistake with this bond measure. Another question. Isn't the Sonoran Corridor, as well as an Abra Valley I-11 route, in violation of county policy established by this board in Resolution 2007-343, which, quote, opposes any new highways in or around the county that have the stated purpose of bypassing the existing Interstate 10, end quote? You're packaging the bond measure in 7 propositions. The economy is still shaky, but road repairs are popular. How about letting the Sonoran Corridor rise or fall on its own merits as a standalone issue? Let's have a democratic discussion and debate so that voters can make an informed decision. Then it won't look like anybody's trying to hide it behind road repairs, perhaps jeopardizing other projects. Including the Sonoran Corridor in a bond package may be a poison pill that imperils many worthwhile community projects. But if you decide to go forward, at least defer it to November 2016 when there will be a much bigger voter turnout and thus a truer exercise in democratic decision making.
Mr. Lannon, you're out of time.
Democracy, use it or lose it.
Thank you. Go ahead. Have you filled out a speaker card?
Alonzo Morado did, and he had to leave. He was.
I need you to fill out a speaker card.
Can we do that after
Okay.
we speak for a moment? Appreciate it. Alonzo was here representing the Metropolitan Tucson Housing Commission, and I'm also a member.
And your name?
Pete Shalupski, City of Tucson resident.
I won't even try to spell your last name.
We strongly support the bond issue, and we believe the part of our economy that has not come back right now is housing and construction. And so your support will create construction jobs. Your support for the affordable housing components will create, we leverage $10 for every dollar you spend on a housing project, according to the past bond proceeds that you issued in the past for housing. So thank you. We hope you support it. Thanks for
And
your
then
efforts.
fill out your green card and give it to the clerk. Thank you. Art Mendoza, Mark Pugh, and David Christiana, excuse me. Art Mendoza, okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair, board members. My name is Art Mendoza. I am the Executive Director of SEIU Arizona. We represent employees right here in Pima County. And I'm here in support again of this bond proposal. And we're here to ask the board to allow Pima County stakeholders and taxpayers the opportunity to invest in our community. SEIU Arizona stands ready with members and community partners, many of whom you've heard from, many of whom you'll hear from after me, who are here ready to support a package that includes affordable housing, neighborhood reinvestment, open space, and Job Path. I'm actually a board member on Job Path, providing pathways to livable wages in Pima County. The projects in this bond will go a long way for our community, and it's a worthy investment in our future. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mark? Are Mark Pugh or David? Mark? Oh, no.
Thank you, Sharon. Good morning. My name is Mark Pugh, and I'm here on behalf of the Santa Fe District of the Tohono Nation, requesting your support for moving all these proposals forward to voters, and specifically requesting your support for the Santa Fe District Cemetery Wash Drainage improvements. Currently, about 900 of the 1,800 residents of the Center District community are literally cut off every time a major storm event occurs. This flooding and cemetery wash prevents emergency vehicles such as fire, ambulances, police from crossing the current at-grade crossings over Mission and Centerville Road. And this poses a great threat to our community and our citizens. The cemetery wash improvements will consist of two sets of reinforced concrete box culverts on our Mission and Centerville Road, which will provide all-weather access for emergency vehicles such as fire, police, ambulances, and also the school buses, residents, and tourists who frequent the Centerville Mission. So we are hopeful that the board will consider in moving this forward, as many of our residents will benefit this, and they also currently have, many of our residents also have serious medical conditions which require access to medical facilities on a 24-hour basis, and these improvements will greatly help facilitate and improve those conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. David Christiana. David? Okay. Then we have Dave Devine, Kevin Burnett, and Val Schaefer. Dave Devine. Dave's coming. Okay, Val's here. And then Kevin Burnett.
I wanted to talk about something you haven't heard about yet. Many of the people have spoken who have expressed the philosophy that we should let the voters decide this issue in 2015, which seems reasonable, except if you do that, you will be putting a very high hurdle in front of many city voters because, as you know, the city holds all mail elections. Therefore, the bonds for early voters in Pima County who are city residents will be sent, I'm assuming, in a separate envelope. But for those people who are city voters who don't register for early ballots, they will have to go to a polling place. And therefore, you will be driving down the turnout in the city of Tucson substantially by having this election this year. If you put it off till 2016, however, those problems are eliminated. Thank you.
Thank you. Val Schaefer. And then Kevin Burnett, if you're with us.
I'm a little on the short side. Okay. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the Board of Supervisors, and Mr. Huckleberry. My name is Val Schaefer. I'm the Vice President of the Palo Verde Neighborhood Association. We're a small group representing 1 square mile. Our neighborhood is bounded by Grant Road, Speedway, Country Club, and Alvernon. We have 1,600 households who receive our newsletter. Even though we're a small group, I think we are dealing with the same kind of issues that many neighborhoods in our community deal with, in particular the walkability issue. And that's why I'm here to urge you all to put the bond package before the electorate. We have a boulevard, we have Dodge Boulevard in our neighborhood. It's a major north-south thoroughfare. Students from Catalina High School must walk it. We're a very walkable neighborhood. Otherwise, we have a lot of people out walking every day, their dogs, children in strollers. We don't walk Dodge Boulevard. It's not safe, it's scary. There are no sidewalks, there are no traffic calming methods. People drive too fast. I have an adult son who's 31. His name is Michael. He has autism and mental retardation, other disabilities. Many of our folks are overweight. Their health is at risk because they don't have access to regular exercise. Fortunately, my son loves to walk, and we walk regularly in our neighborhood, but we don't do Dodge Boulevard because it's too scary. There have been suggestions that nonprofits like us, we are a nonprofit, fund our own improvements, and we do that. We got funding to put up streetlights on Palo Verde Boulevard. We are working with the City of Tucson and Watershed Management to reduce flooding on our streets. We just built a pocket park on city property in our neighborhood. We're allied with the Pima Council on Aging to create a care alliance. We're very concerned about our community, and we put our sweat where it's needed. But we cannot do everything, and we appeal to you to put this proposal before the electorate so that our community can be safer and more walkable. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin Burnett. Not here. Okay, then let's move on to Pam Sutherland, Ginny Crawford, and James Coolish.
Good morning. Thank you, Supervisor Bronson, for convening this, and thank you, County Administrator Huckleberry, for putting together such a sensible plan. I'm a lawyer. I'm an economic development consultant. I was one of the developers of the Ice House Lofts and have done a number of infill projects in downtown Tucson. I live in one of our historic neighborhoods, and this morning I walked in our Tucson Mountain Parks. So I absolutely love this bond package, which winds up speaking to all the best parts of Tucson. It has economic development pieces, and our economy needs that. It also has incentives that create a public-private partnership, which is exactly the direction we need to go in. 96 projects are included in this, and there are items for everyone. I also want to point out that the group that's been convened here in this room and outside really represents some of our best community organizers in all of Pima County. So we are speaking in favor of this bond proposition, this bond package, and we will go and work, turn out voters, and get this passed. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
I really want to thank all of you. When I think about that, every week, almost every week, you all sit through these meetings and listen to us cut you all down and want our own way. And yes, thank you all for your service. Whether I agree with what you do or not, thank you. But my name's Ginny Crawford, and I'm a taxpayer. So I'm here to represent the taxpayers in Pima County. Mr. Huckleberry wants to at least trim 6% from each county department's budget, and this comes from the STAR and budget hearings. I want to put it on record, I agree with this, and I think it's a good start in the right direction. But now, Chuck wants to add more debt in the form of 7 bonds totaling $850 million plus millions of dollars in debt. Millions of dollars in interest for these bonds and to keep up maintenance of whatever we do with these bonds. Onto the county's debt of about $1.5 billion. Right now, that's the debt we have right now, about $1.5 billion. I might want to ask, where's all the money? But anyway, what in the heck are you thinking when we can't meet our financial obligations now to put us in more debt? I don't know. It is clear to me that Chuck isn't thinking about the people who live in Pima County and will have to pay for this out-of-control spending for years to come. Hey, my grandkids who are 2 and 5 will probably be paying off this bond if they stay in this county, which is a big question. My question to the supervisors, will the supervisors think of the taxpayers who are struggling, now paying high taxes in this county, and will pay even higher taxes for years to come if these 7 bonds pass? Will you think of us taxpayers and vote no and not even take these bonds to the ballot? Or will you think, I don't know who you'll be thinking of, not even the special interest groups with this type of debt on our community. I just want to add, people say economic development. Well, yeah, the taxpayers will live in Pinell County and pay their taxes and work in this community, because we won't be able to stay in this community and afford it. Thanks,
you.
Sharon.
Thank you. James Coolish.
Madam Supervisor,
Hi.
board members, Mr. Huckleberry. My name's Jim Coolish. I'm president of the Alliance of Construction Trades, located at 465 West St. Mary's. We're a nonprofit trade association. This June will celebrate 30 years in Tucson, our founding. I am pleased to say to you that our board of directors has unanimously approved their support for the bond package. With our approval today, and hopefully your approval today, we will express and campaign to our members and over 2,000 employees to educate them to support the package. There's one area that I'm extremely important to our members and all qualified subcontractors in Pima County. That is that we request that you direct your procurement department to include the small business enterprise in all your construction process, and that for all general contractors to follow the rules. I know I speak for our construction partners, but really, this is a good package for everyone in Pima County. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speakers are Barbara Levy, Marla Closen, and Binky Luckhurst.
Good morning, Madam Chair. I thought I checked. I did not wish to speak, but let me just say bravo to all of you who are supporting the bond issue. I believe
You
that
did,
the
and
time
the clerk
is now.
handed me your, so.
Thank you.
All right, Marla Closen and Binky Luckhurst.
Good morning, Madam Chairman, board members, Mr. Huckleberry. My name is Marla Clausen, and I am here today to emphatically encourage you to vote no on this bond for the simple reason that we cannot afford it. It will cost our county $816,000 alone just to put this bond on the ballot. Pima County is $1.3 billion in debt. Property taxes have risen 24% in 2 years, and we continue to pay $19 million a year on a bond that we approved in 1997. Years of fiscal mismanagement, misuse of road funds, and excessive discretionary spending have gotten us to where we are today. Example 1. Mr. Huckleberry and his board approved $1.2 million of approved road money for a down payment on soccer fields. Everyone knows this. We listen to the radio. We all know that, right? July of last year, $7.5 million was approved for soil for that soccer fields, and the remaining cost of the project, which tops out at $25 million, is included in a bond proposal that has not been approved by the voters yet. To me, that is extreme fiscal mismanagement. Example 2, Mr. Huckleberry, without board approval, moved $2.2 million in approved road funds back into the general fund. Now, he did say he did this to pad the general fund because of the upcoming state cuts. I just want you to hold that thought for a minute because I'll revisit it in a second. Example 3, excessive discretionary spending is really this bond right here. These are wonderful projects for people, you know. These are really great. What community wouldn't want these projects? However, when we approve this discretionary spending at the cost of our infrastructure and public health and safety, there's a problem here. As I studied these projects, I noticed something else. This was a glaring item that kept popping out at me. The operations and maintenance costs are not included in this bond package at all. I have a few examples here. Pima County softball tournament, operating maintenance costs, $101,000 per year to be paid through the general fund. $40,000 to be paid through the general fund, $260,000, $200,000. It's not covered in the bond package. So $29 million could be a reasonable estimate coming out of our empty general fund. The bottom line is this. We need to stop the fiscal mismanagement, the misuse of our road funds, and we need to get our fiscal house in order. That's why I'm asking to say no to this bond. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Binky Luckhurst. I know I'm representing the docents at the Tucson Museum of Art, but I did check that I wasn't going to speak.
Did we do that?
But that's okay, because I could talk.
No, actually, you checked you did wish to speak.
I did?
You did.
Sorry. Okay. Very briefly, I totally support this bond. I am very active at the Tucson Museum of Art. I hope everybody here participates and comes and sees everything that's offered. And the more we can do, the better. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speakers are Barbara Fleming, Jeff Singleton, and Melinda Burge. Barbara Fleming. Barbara had to leave. Jeff?
Good morning, Madam Chair, Supervisors, Mr. Huckleberry. Thank you for letting me speak this morning. I thought this had been adjusted earlier for me. I'm here as a citizen of Tucson, and I'm also here as the Executive Director of the Southern Arizona Land Trust and an advocate of affordable housing. There are many components to this bond that I support wholly, including affordable housing. I wish it was a little bit bigger component and line item. And as mentioned earlier, I believe by Mr. Shalupski, the past has shown that investments in affordable housing get leveraged probably more than any other dollars in the bond package. So I look forward to its passage or it being on the ballot and going to the public for a vote. So clearly I'm here in support of the bond package. A little bit of data just so you understand that even though we're in the 6th year of a recovery, for many people in our city, it doesn't feel like one. A couple of recent studies, one by the National Low Income Housing Coalition, has shown that Arizona is in the bottom 5 of all of our states in the gap for affordable housing. And that's affordability and availability. And this study has recently been published. And it basically shows that in the city of Tucson, metropolitan area, we have 2 families for every 1 home of affordable and available home to rent. Now this is on rental statistics. And that's for very low income. And those are HUD definitions. For extremely low income, we have a gap of 1 home available for every 4 families. So as you can see, this is the gap is getting bigger, and we need to address this. And these bond funds are the catapult or the launching pad for a number of projects that will help us to bring more affordable units to the town. National Association of Realtors also has done a recent study on Tucson, and basically it shows that recently rents have increased by, I believe, 11%, while during the same period income locally has gone down over 3%. So the gap gets bigger. We need more dollars for affordable housing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Melinda Burge. Melinda? Then let's move to James Crampton, Emily Funk, and Joe Winfield. James Crampton, Emily Funk, Joe Winfield. Oh, Joe, go ahead.
Sure. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, and Mr. Chuckleberry.
Chuckleberry?
Huckleberry.
Excuse me.
You'll probably appreciate, Mr. Huckleberry, that my middle name is Castleberry, so we may. My name is Joe Winfield, and I'm here representing Jamie Kingsbury, who's the acting forest supervisor for the Coronado National Forest. And she expresses on behalf of the forest our support for the Southern Arizona Regional Orientation Center. We are among a robust partnership that will collaboratively operate and manage the proposed Southern Arizona Regional Orientation Center. We believe the center is an opportunity to engage new audiences and increase visitor satisfaction. It will provide a unique venue to promote understanding, respect, and stewardship of regional, cultural, historical, and natural resources and encourage responsible economic development. We're caretakers of nearly 200 million acres of public land and host almost 3 million visitors annually. You may be interested to know that the Coronado National Forest January 2015 visitor use report showed that over 50% of the visitors to the forest stay more than one night, with an average spending per party of $511. The proposed Southern Arizona Regional Orientation Center will help ignite visitors and residents' passion for public lands and parks, further bolstering our tourism industry. Thank you for the work that you're doing on behalf of our community, and I'm glad I could bring a little levity to the meeting.
Thank you. Mark Blakeman, Denise Shepard, and Emily Perez.
Madam
Mark?
Chair, after this group of speakers, I think it would be good if we took a 5-minute break, give us a chance to catch
Okay.
up with ourselves, okay?
Okay.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the Board of Supervisors, Madam Chair, and Mr. Huckleberry. I'm Mark Blakeman. I'm President and CEO of the Tucson Symphony Orchestra. I'm here speaking this morning in support of the bond initiative and want to offer my words of support and encouragement and appreciation. While considerable effort and work has already been accomplished in the preliminary stages of the bond proposal, the Tucson Symphony and its leadership understands that much more work is yet to be done to support the bond initiative in a public vote this November. I'm here to offer my assurances that the Symphony will work tirelessly to advocate for the bond issue. On an annual basis, roughly 100,000 people enjoy a wide range of programming opportunities through the Tucson Symphony. The Symphony, its staff, volunteers, and Board of Trustees will work to educate our constituents as to the benefits of the total bond package, the economic impact of the bond projects, and to the importance of moving our community forward through these engaging and important capital investments. I believe that the arts and cultural sector in this community is very vibrant and important to the quality of life. I think that we make a difference in people's lives, and we have a real economic impact, estimated to be roughly $89 million annually, and an additional $8 million in tax revenues. We're a formidable group, and we will band together, and we want to support this, and we will educate and encourage our constituents to pass this bond initiative if you will put it on the ballot in November. Thank you.
Thank you. Denise Shepard, Emily Perez.
Good morning. I live in unincorporated Pima County in Supervisor Miller's district. I own a business in the city of Tucson, and I own commercial property in the city of Tucson. And certainly this bond election, if it goes to the voters, would affect me in both my personal and professional capacity. I am a lawyer.
And your name for the
Denise
record?
Shepard.
Okay, thank you.
I am a lawyer and a licensed fiduciary, and I take care of the elderly and the disabled. I manage their money, and certainly this bond election would affect them. But the effects are more positive than they are negative. Yes, it would cost some money, but those monies would also be reinvested in our community. And a healthy, vibrant, growing community best serves the most vulnerable of our population. I also serve on the board of directors of the Reed Park Zoological Society, and I have for many years, and I have participated both in the first round of committee meetings and in this most recent round of committee meetings, and I've been struck by the broad-based discussion. If this bond discussion has done nothing more, it has created a forum for our community to talk about what's important for this county. This county needs growth, it needs economic development, it needs our infrastructure supported. As a business owner, if I don't support my business, and sometimes that means with financing, then my business is likely to fail. And I've been in business for 30 years, so I must be doing something right. I would strongly urge the Board of Supervisors to continue this discussion by passing this bond election on to the voters in November. And remember, when it passes, and I do say when, the money's not going to be spent the very next day. It's going to be spent in a careful, managed way. There's lots of rules for spending bond monies. And with projects like the Reed Park Zoological Society project, it will represent an influx of monies into our community, more than twice the cost of that project, as we have committed to raising more than what we are asking for this committee. I thank you for your time, and I urge you to put this on the ballot in November.
All right, Emily Perez. Oh, there you are.
Good morning, members of the board. My name is Emily Perez. I am 22 years old and currently a senior in college at the University of Arizona, or as I like to call it, a professional student. And I'm a resident of Pima County. I would simply like to put on the record I am against this bond. It's sad to think that the town I've grown to love during my college career will not be a promising area to settle down. The fact is, Tucson, there's already a brain drain problem. With the state of the local economy, it would be frankly not an ideal area to have a job after college or even start a business. Pima County already faces a great debt. I'm 22 now. I don't know, I do not want to be paying off this debt when I am 60, nor do I want my children to be paying the cost for squandering of taxpayer dime. We need to focus on getting our priorities straight and settle our debt above all. Thank you.
We are going to, it is 11:45. We'll be back here at 11:55. We have a quorum, so we're going to continue. So, Jay Janasek?
It says here, good morning, but I guess it's good afternoon.
It's good afternoon at this point.
My name is Jay Janasek, and I live in Corona de Tucson. In the bond package, there is a comment from Mr. Huckleberry that there will always be complainers. I would hope the board recognizes that we are concerned citizens and not complainers. Also within the bond package, the independent review states the greatest deviation occurred regarding the city of Tucson, which paid 43% of the taxes and received 50% of the value of the completed projects. In unincorporated Pima County, which paid 43% of the taxes and received 36% of the value. That's a 14% difference and increases with this bond package. Now, the city of Tucson has said they will not be paying their share of the $22 million bond that was passed last year, another increase to that inequity. This package is almost 40 times the size of that bond, over $800 million. Don't waste time debating each proposal. Reject this bond in its entirety. Don't let Pima County, Arizona become another Orange County, California. You all know Orange County. It's the home of top tourist attractions, Disneyland, Knott's Berry Farm, 40 miles of beaches, etc. Eventually, the voters refused to pay for the bonds, similar to the city of Tucson refusing to pay as mentioned above. In 1994, the county ended up in bankruptcy. The bondholders lost money, but even worse, 3,000 county employees lost their jobs. It's time to start a search for a new administrator and the buyout of the existing administrator's contract. The money exists. Just use a fraction of the $2.3 million that would have been used to getting this vote out to the voters. You know the voters that vote yes and then refuse to pay? A new administrator, one that listens to concerned citizens and doesn't refer to us as complainers. The new administrator will decide on how best to accomplish fixing the roads and what should be in the bond package, or if one even is needed. Maybe she will bring new and fresh ideas to the board that does not raise taxes. Let the market value of homes increase. This will help stop short sales and rid the housing market of REOs and increase the tax base. The time to say no is now. The British Prime Minister Tony Blair once said, "The art of leadership is saying no, not saying yes." It's very easy to say yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Gail Hartman, Judith Meyer. Gail left. Judith Meyer.
I can't do
And you're not
anything
Peter
better.
Chesson, but you're subbing
Yes, I'm
for him.
substituting for Peter Chesson, who gave me my marching orders. I thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board, for giving me the opportunity to speak, and Mr. Huckleberry. I've made the same mistake. It's not fair. Chuck Huckleberry. We say Chuckleberry. Can't help it. I speak in support of this bond election, of referring this to election, in behalf of the Tucson Mountains Association, and in particular, the proposals which are investment in our future. We favor the $95 million for open space, in particular, and for wildlife habitat. The Sonoran Desert Conservation Plan adopted by the county proposes wildlife corridors between the Tucson and Tortolita and Catalina Mountains. Tremendously important, and that cannot be fulfilled without preserving land between these mountain ranges now. Once they're developed, they're gone. This is what I want our children and our grandchildren to have. This is what's worth paying for. And I want to make a few other comments about that personally. I moved here 11 years ago because of what this county was doing for open space preservation. I was so impressed when I read about the Sweetwater Preserve project. I actually moved to near that preserve, and to Tucson in particular, because of that. I admire that enormously as what this county places as sound investment for our health, for our community. And I would like to say also, in response to some of what I heard this morning, there's a reason why 4 of the 5 supervisors who are sitting today were sitting when I moved here 11 years ago. It's because we see sound fiscal management of our county, and we see you fostering our ideals. The 5th member resigned voluntarily of her own accord. And I hope Ms. Miller will also have the same kind of longevity and respect from the community that we give to you. I thank you for that. And we need to purchase these lands before they're developed, and that's the main goal of Tucson Mountains Association in this bond election, and I thank you for your time.
Carrie Sylvan, Greg Foster, and Jan Johnson.
Good afternoon, Carrie Sylvan, 8060 East Ocotillo Drive. I think after 20 years of doing this, I've never stood here representing myself. It's usually other people. I'm speaking to you today in support of referring the bond package to the ballot. As many of you know, I wear many hats, and I'm wearing them all as I stand before you today. I've been a resident of this region for almost 30 years. I'm in Supervisor Miller's district. I'm a land use lawyer. I've worked with all of you along with developers to move projects forward in this community. I'm a member of SALC. I'm on the TRIO board. I'm on the Metro Chamber board. I'm immediate past president of the Jewish Community Foundation, gives millions of dollars back to this community every year. TMC Foundation, work with the university. I'm a cyclist. I'm a runner, although my husband wouldn't call me a cyclist. I'm a dog owner, thanks to Pima County Animal Rescue. And I have 3 kids, and it's no wonder that I'm tired. I'm also founder and immediate past president of Imagine Greater Tucson. With all of those hats and through all of those lenses, every single one of them leads me to the conclusion that this is an appropriate bond package that needs to be referred to the voters for the future of our community. It has in it everything we need: roads, economic development, with libraries, workforce, you know what's in there. As you all know, IGT engaged 10,000 people in this community to talk about the kind of future that we wanted. Tucson is a fantastic place, and we focused on opportunities and vision to be better. Collaboration was a big piece of it, and all these components are in the bond package. We understand, and I understand in particular, good process, which means bringing diverse people together to have a really good solution. That's what this bond package brings to you. It's diverse, and it solves a lot of our challenges. It is not perfect. No solution is going to be perfect. There's not enough in there for everybody, but it's enough to move this community forward, and we have to stop saying no because we're waiting for perfect. I urge you to include the roadway, the $160 million. I can tell you that no matter where I am, whether it's on the side of a soccer field, the side of a basketball field, in a board meeting, working with investors who want to come into this community, the general consensus is that our roads kind of suck, and we need to fix it. And that's a big piece of this, and I applaud you for putting it in the package. If we expect to ultimately have enough money to do everything that needs to get done, we have to invest in ourselves in order to bring other investment into this community. If we don't invest in ourselves, who else is going to? So I urge you to refer the bond package to the voters. I will personally and professionally be doing everything that I can to get the voters out to speak to you on the bond package if you put it on the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you. Don Mahato, Brian Bickle, and Dan Brocious.
Good afternoon, members of the board and Mr. Huckleberry. I think I really should just rely on everything my friend Carrie Sylvan just said. I don't think I can add anything other than to maybe get a little bit more specific about an investment the county made that has paid off in a very short period of time at Keno Sports Complex with soccer and Major League Soccer preseason. About 3 years ago, the county agreed to begin to support Major League Soccer preseason in Tucson, and also repurposed a portion of Keno Sports Complex. In 3 short years, that's led to almost 40 professional soccer teams training and competing in Tucson. It has also led to tens of thousands of fans, and many of whom traveling from out of state to Tucson to watch these games. That's sports tourism, it's economic impact, it's a national level of prominence for our community, and this is something that's occurred as a result of the county's investment. I would also note that the county's investment at Keno has brought the availability of new fields for our kids playing in youth soccer. I was at on the sidelines at Keno last weekend for the CDO soccer tournament and saw literally hundreds of kids playing on near perfect fields, something that I've never seen in 30 years in Tucson. So what the county is considering today is whether to refer an investment in our community to the voters. I would ask the county to be confident in that referral. From my own personal experience, the investment made in soccer at Keno Sports Complex has been hugely positive and will continue to pay off over time. So I'm here to support. We'll certainly, as a group, our club, FC Tucson, will communicate a positive message about the bonds throughout the summer and fall, should they be referred to the voters, and we're here to help in any way possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Supervisor Carroll.
I wanted to say,
yeah.
I also,
Go ahead, Jan. Go
I
ahead.
also attended I think it was a CDO soccer tournament down at Keno, not last Saturday, but the Saturday before. And it was so crowded, I didn't get to see you there, Greg, but there were hundreds of teams, hundreds of players, in fact, dozens of teams that really made the weekend special for many families in the community that came down all the way from the Northwest. Certainly enjoyed your new facilities, and thank you for doing what you did with Mike Perlman, Coach Perlman being a coach for the young kids besides at FC Tucson. You're to be commended. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Chair, members of the board, Mr. Huckleberry, I'm Jan Johnson. I live up north where the Great Wildlife Bridge is going to be, and it's passing under it today. It's getting up there. It's going to be great. I'm here to say that I hope that you all approve all of the bond package and the highway, the roads. And but I'm here more for Parks and Rec, or to say about Parks and Rec. I'm on the Parks and Rec Commission, and for a number of years, and all those items on that bond package are very much needed. So hopefully that you will support the Parks and Recreation portion. Also on open space, been dealing with that for years. I've been in Tucson since 1960. I forgot what it was. It was a long time ago. 45. That's when I was here. But I've watched Tucson grow. It's got a lot of roofs, but I'm hoping it all just doesn't look like Phoenix. And so I think we're kind of special in Pima County is because of our open space program. So please support that. I'm also on the Conservation Acquisition Commission, so I've been sitting in also on the Bond Advisory Committee meetings, and so I'm really hopeful that you all will support the bond package.
Thank you. Greg Foster, are you here? Oh, no, never mind. Okay, for some reason, I thought you were Brian Bickle. I apologize. Here's Brian.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Mr. Huckleberry. My name is Brian Bickle. I live in unincorporated Pima County, and I'm standing here today representing nobody but me, speaking in support of putting the bond issue on the November ballot. There's two issues on the agenda today that are going to affect me personally, financially. One is the bond package. The other is the wastewater treatment facility. The only thing I'd like to say about the bond package specifically is there's $160 million on that bond package for roads. I believe the road most people would like to see improved in Pima County is the one in front of their house. If you spend all of that $160 million on arterials and feeders, you're going to have a whole lot of unhappy taxpayers. So put it into people's streets rather than arterials and feeders. Chair Bronson was quoted in yesterday's paper saying $815 million is a big number. It is probably more money than I'll make in my lifetime. In fact, I know it is. And I was curious as to how this was going to impact me personally. So my property tax rate, secondary tax rate, is going to go from 70 cents to 81.5 cents. My assessed value in 2014 was $23,919. My taxes, secondary taxes, are going to go up $2.29 a month to pass an $815 bond package, if what I read in the paper is correct. I'm asking you to give me the opportunity to vote on spending that money, because the five of you are going to make the decision as to whether it's going to cost me $3 a month to deal with the same old crap in the same old way when you vote on the wastewater bill. Thank you.
And would it be okay if I quoted you? Thank you. Dan Brocius, are you here? Oh, there you are.
I'd like to reiterate what the previous speaker said. Madam Chair Bronson, members of the Board of Supervisors, Mr. Huckleberry, I'm Dan Brocius, Vice Chair of the Pima County Canoa Ranch Conservation Committee, and I'm here today on behalf of the committee in support of the bond proposal. Most of the speakers here have talked in more general terms about the impact, good and bad, of the bond package. I just wanted to give you a specific. I mean, as you can imagine, the Canoa Committee is elated to see a line item providing for the Canoa Ranch Visitor Center and Museum. The board, in its wisdom, as you may recall, acquired the land for the Raul Grijalva Canoa Conservation Park in 2001. And since that time, dedicated Pima County staff and members of the community have worked together to bring this place to life. Now, the historic buildings have been stabilized. We don't have adobe melting in the rain. And the site is open to the public. So this bond issue gives us the chance to maintain the momentum and further the Canoa Master Plan. We can tell the story of 4,000 years of natural and cultural history of this place, including Hohokam, Tohono-O'odham, Spanish, Apache, Mexican, Yoeme, and Anglo-American. So please help us move on with this cultural treasure that we have down the valley, which is attractive to both residents and tourists alike. Now, speaking individually, as a Pima County taxpayer and citizen, please give me the chance to show my support for this package by sending it to the polls. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen Bringham, Trevor Hare, and Roger McManus.
Pardon. Madam Chair, Supervisors, Bond Advisory Committee, I'm Steve Brigham, and I'm representing the January 8th Memorial Foundation. You know our story. I'm also here with Pam Simon, one of the victims from that shooting, Karen Christensen, the current president of the board. I'm immediate past president. You know our story, but I think it's important that we bring the connections together, that we recently remembered the anniversary of the Oklahoma City bombing, a community that went through stress, struggled with bond financing, and invested in their community and made a remarkable city in the Midwest. We have that opportunity here. My other hat that I wear is as an employee of the Banner UMC Health Center, an organization that's investing in this community, and an organization that had a level 1 trauma center ready to take care of our victims. These connections are important, and I think it's incredibly important for people that speak against this to understand that investment, public investment in our community brings us things like a road to Mount Lemmon, a park, the magnificent courthouse behind us. These are important, and I'm here to stand and support your efforts and the efforts of the Bond Advisory Committee.
Thank
Pam
you.
or Karen?
We just add that we appreciate the fact that you gave us last year the opportunity to do a master plan concept for El Presidio Park and to have the January 8th Memorial located in your wonderful viewscape here. Those 4 designs are now available on our website, www.tucsonsmemorial.org. There are also posters over at the Drachman building at Stone and Pennington, so you can see those 4 designs. We're asking for public comments on those, and those will be eventually fed into the selection process. We hope to have that final designer chosen sometime in May, and we'll be coming to you with what I think will be an incredible concept for redesigning the park so that it will be lively and used by all kinds of Tucsonans, and also be that kind of tourism draw that we've seen memorials being in other places. You know, our theme is Together We Thrive, and I think after you listen to all of the input this morning, many of these projects really exemplify what we stand for. Tucson and Pima County, Together We Thrive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Supervisor.
I was just going to comment that I'll always appreciate Pam Simon as a friend and as a colleague, but I remember the night President Obama was here to address a crowd at McHale Center about the tragedy that had just happened in our community. Pam asked him for a ride back to the hospital after the event was over, and I thought that was real gutsy. Exactly. Anyway.
Madam Chair.
Trevor.
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Carroll.
I have a question regarding the design of the 4
Actually, if
park
that's-
pieces.
Could you do it privately, because we want to
Sure.
entertain as many speakers as we can. No. And so he's got a question. Can you? Okay.
Madam Chair, thank you. Chuck, supervisors, my name is Trevor Hare. I'm a conservation biologist. I've spent the last 18 years being a volunteer science advisor to the Coalition for Sonoran Desert Protection, was a stakeholder on the Sonoran Desert Conservation Plan stakeholder group. I've had the pleasure of serving with Jan Johnson the last 11 years on the Conservation Acquisition Commission. And I just want to remind you guys that our job is not done in regards to the Sonoran Desert Conservation Plan, nor the multi-species conservation plan where we get our Section 10 permit. We have to close the gap on our protected land system here in Pima County. And so I think it's extremely important to support this bond, and I would like to see a 5-0 vote to support this bond going forward, the whole bond, but especially the open space bond. Thank you.
Thank you. Roger McMahon. Roger? Then let's move on to Robert Freitas, Alba Sukar, and John Hudson.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chairman Bronson, members of the board, Administrator Huckleberry. My name is Bob Freitas. I'm with the El Presidio Neighborhood Association, and we had a number of our representatives here earlier. But I would like to speak in generally in support of the bond and specifically in support of neighborhood reinvestment. I'm not speaking against any of these other worthy projects, but we need to emphasize the basics. We need to emphasize getting the basics done right. Neighborhood reinvestment looks like streetlights where there are none, or relamping streetlights that have outlived their usefulness. Neighborhood reinvestment means sidewalks where there are none, or replacing broken and cracked ones dating from the 1930s WP era, when they also had a much deeper depression and reinvested or invested in the community. We have to look at our forebears for this example. Neighborhood reinvestment is traffic calming with measures to preserve and enhance walkable, pedestrian-friendly aspects of historic areas, which draw people to live downtown and to work and invest. We are very supportive of an increasingly vibrant downtown, but we must recognize this also brings increasing pressures of traffic, especially vehicles looking to cut through, leaving the arterials, and also for the potential of injury when there are uneven or broken sidewalks, and the potential for an increase in crime when you have increasing folks coming down and you have areas that are poorly lit. We need to reinvest in our neighborhoods. Neighborhood reinvestment may not catch the headlines, as will some of the special projects, but it builds a sound foundation for many years of positive growth ahead for the community. It is truly reinvesting in our community. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Alba, Sukar, John Hudson. Okay. Ann Snodgrass. You're here.
Good afternoon. I'm Ann Snodgrass, trustee for the Tucson Museum of Art. It is a pleasure to be here before you. There's one I am very much in favor, as you might expect, for the renovation of the courthouse to be part of the bond and to have the bond go to the voters. There's one thing that you have not been mentioned today was that once the courthouse is renovated, the Tucson Museum of Art will take care of it. And we are taking care of a very significant part of Tucson history. And I would not like to see this delayed another year. We'd really like to get started on it. And also that there will be a partnership with private money coming to support the museum as well. And thank you for the opportunity.
Robert Knight. Mary Bell McCorkle. William Robert Ward. Josefina Cardenas. Sean Campbell. And I think you're going to be the wrap-up speaker, looking at the time.
Just made it.
Not to put any pressure on you.
We're musicians. We always have pressure.
Uh-huh.
And rhythm. Good afternoon. I'm Michael Becker, principal trombone with the Tucson Symphony and elected chair of the orchestra committee.
Oh, trombone. I love trombone.
And I'm Sean Campbell, fourth horn with the TSO and VP of Artistic Engagement and Education. And I'm going to speak a bit about some of the people who would benefit from the passing of this bond. May 3rd, the TSO will present a concert for young families at the city's Leo Rich Theater. This concert features Tucson author Susan Lowell's 3 javelinas with narration in Spanish and English. It is expected to be filled to capacity, reaching more than 500 people. On May 5, 6, and 7, More than 13,000 students and teachers will descend on the city-owned music hall for 6 performances of the TSO's Young People's Concerts. This year, we're serving the districts of Amphi, Wabakeevery, Catalina Foothills, Continental, Flowing Wells, Marana, Nogales, Oracle, Sahuarita, Santa Cruz Valley, Sunnyside, Tanque Verde, TUSD, and Vail. That same week at the music hall, the TSO will host 6 boys and girls clubs of Tucson at a rehearsal. 60 club members and their chaperones will receive a backstage tour, a glimpse of arts jobs in action, and a chance to hear the TSO work with young musicians. In 1 week alone, the TSO will reach thousands of families across Pima County, all in the city-owned TCC complex. We serve a broad cross-section of our community. Our community values what we are offering, but the quality of the facilities that house these programs directly impacts how well we can serve these individuals and these large numbers with safe access, adequate services, and the technical capabilities that meet public expectations and needs.
As elected leader of the TSO musicians, I will help mobilize my colleagues to educate and motivate all of the people they reach throughout the community through hundreds of students, parents, neighbors, and associates. In addition, we will work to share this message with the voting parents and teachers of the 40,000 children we serve each year, along with the 100,000 TSO audience members and supporters. We strongly encourage you to send this bond package to the public for a vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we are at 12:30 now. There are 38 cards remaining. They will not get an opportunity to speak. This was not a hearing. Of those, 34 have indicated that they support. The remaining have not indicated whether they support, oppose, or undecided. And we have 93 speakers, or 93 who have submitted cards who did not wish to speak. Of those, 92 support the bond, and 1 is undecided. Well, yes, I know, and you're probably one of the ones that is not going to be able to speak, because we need to move forward. Sir, thank you. We really appreciate you being here, but we have some time constraints today. What's the pleasure of the board on item 14, resolution 2015-19?
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Elias.
Obviously, we've heard from a lot of different segments of the community about a lot of important issues, and frankly, the vast majority of people supporting placing this bond election on the ballot for November in 2015. Good arguments by those opposed, and we appreciate all of you coming out as well. An outstanding example of civic participation by people in Pima County and in Tucson particularly. So very proud of all of that. Particularly touched by a speaker from El Presidio neighborhood speaking about neighborhood reinvestment. A number of other folks speaking about open space and its importance of finishing the conservation plan and the Section 10 permit. And then a whole slew of other folks who got out and spoke in general with great pride about our community and how we need to invest in order to make things better here in our community. And serious questions about debt load, and I'd like to hear from Mr. Huckleberry about that in the discussion regarding the motion I'm about to make. But I think that it's most appropriate that we hear from him in regards to how we pay this off efficiently, and the M&O costs that were brought up, even though they were just put together by a single person rather than by an entity that took a broader look at things, deserve to be addressed as well. Many of those O&M costs will be dealt with by the various jurisdictions throughout Pima County. I also want to speak to the roads issue, and pleased that there's some tax equity in that number for District 5, because 90% of my residents live inside the city of Tucson, and I need to make sure that they get a fair shake in this whole deal. It appears to me that they do. I'm going to go ahead and move Resolution 2015-19 so we can continue our discussion.
Is there a second? Motion and a second.
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Miller.
First, I'd like to thank all of those who spoke in favor and against. I thank you all for coming. And I've made a new friend in Pam Simon. We have a Vermont in common. She spent many years up there. One of the things that I see issues with this package is that we need to be responsible in our recommendations. We are still in the process of coming out of a severe economic downturn. Our projections for growth are flat. Costs are rising due to the flat tax base. We have to spread the costs of operations and maintenance over a smaller tax base. Wastewater is but one example. We're going to be looking again at another increase in wastewater rates because the projections in growth weren't near what we thought they were going to be. We were much more optimistic than we should have been. With increased property taxes, electricity, water, etc. State cost shifts we've been hearing about that we have to absorb $23 million. The potential for our pension contributions having to increase with the new laws coming into place as defined by the Government Accounting Standards Board. We don't quite know yet what the impact of that is going to be. The biggest thing is the flat growth, stagnant wages, etc. And one of the things that stuck out to me was, one of the questions I have for Mr. Huckleberry is, you have all of these packages, and let's just take the roads, for example. We have road repairs of $160 million, and then we have one of the roads for Sonoran Corridor at $30 million, and then a road out at IBM Tech Park U of A Tech Park for $10 million. Is there a specific order in which those projects are going to be done within the packages, or is there a specific order in terms of which packages will be addressed first? That's one concern I have. And what is the time frame over which these projects are going to be built out?
Madam Chair and Supervisor Miller, the bond implementation plan that you will receive sometime in probably June or July of this year will identify and program each of the various 96 projects and how cash flow with regard to bond sales will be allocated to those projects. And so that detail will be coming. But generally, with regard to, if you look on one of the tables, I believe it's on page 17, where we've talked about the biggest question is the road bond money. It will all be allocated in the first 5 years at about $35 million in the first 2 years and $30 million a year thereafter. So that money will be up front in this particular investment strategy. In addition, I think, as Supervisor Elias noted, these funds will be allocated for use by the board, and the board will remain the contracting entity, and they will be allocated in accordance with the assessed values of the particular jurisdictions within the county. So that means that taxes received from that particular jurisdiction will be returned in the form of road maintenance in direct proportion to the taxes that are collected. So those are really the answers to those two questions.
Thank you. Another question I have, in your assumptions, you have Pima County estimated secondary assessed value for 2020 assumes a 3% growth rate in net assessed value. So over a 10-year period, that's about, and we calculate the current years, and I think it was 1% in 15, 16, and then 3% pretty much thereafter. My concern is with net assessed value growing, that's going to increase the property taxes even with the increased secondary rate. And if you're projecting 3% per year in 10 years, that means the net assessed value goes up 34%.
Madam Chair and Supervisor Miller, yes, that's correct. And you got to remember that that net assessed value in proportion to, say, history or years will grow at a slower rate than it has historically previously, because we're under Proposition 117 control that says that the assessed value for taxable purposes cannot increase by more than 5% per year. In our estimate with regard to 3% is a pretty long-term historical trend of assessed value, absent we call the anomalies of the mid-2000s. And so historically, when our assessed value grew by about 3% a year to 3.5, that was a fairly solid, sustained economic expansion. And in the early years of this projected on Table 6, we're looking at up to 2020. Really, the assessed value this year is about 1.5% growth, and it's not projected to go above 2% for the next 3 years. And then it begins showing signs of growing greater than 3%, but what we've done is controlled it at 3% to be conservative with regard to our ability to repay the debt.
Okay, and then you gave an example of an average $150,000 home will have a secondary increase of $68 for these bonds. What was the rate for interest that you utilized in that calculation? And was that this year's net assessed value?
Yeah. Madam Chair and Supervisor Miller, I believe that was based on estimated sale value interest rates of about 4%. And that's in the calculations. We actually overestimated it slightly from what it really is, but we left the numbers high because it's better to overestimate the tax impact than underestimate it. And so it's those are, again, fairly conservative numbers. The $152,000 is actually the average assessed value of an owner-occupied home in Pima County. We use $250,000 because the publicity pamphlet and the statute requires us to also state that value as well, and so that's why you see that number.
And the interest rate could go as high as 8% on these bonds, right, as we go into the out years?
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board, in the enabling question, there's two issues that I've addressed in the memorandum, and it's just the art with regard to bond counsel and how they write the questions for voter authorization. They typically put in maximum limits, and so that 8% is a maximum limit. And the 20-year period for retirement that's written in the question is also a maximum period. We have historically and will continue to have a 15-year debt period, and we will pay interest at whatever the market rate is. And the market rate just in the last few years on average, the issuances that we've gone through has been 2.78%. The most recent one was less than 2% interest. And so while we think the trend on interest is going to increase in the future, it's not going to escalate rapidly. And so I think our view is that during the life of term of this 12 years of issuance, we will probably see interest rates at no more than about 4 to 5%.
Okay, and the one question that came up from one of the individuals who was here, he had calculated out operations and maintenance, which will affect our primary taxes in addition to the secondary. And I was just wondering, do you have an estimate of what the operations and maintenance costs will be to the portions of this bond that will be maintained by Pima County, as I recognize some of these will not?
Yes, Madam Chair and Supervisor Miller, we will have very distinct and specific operating and maintenance expenses assigned to each project sheet in the bond implementation plan. And I think what's important to understand is that we have stressed to the participating jurisdictions, those jurisdictions that are going to have a new ball field built or a new rec center, that they must commit through their governing board and acknowledge those O&M expenses and agree to budget for those over not only the life of the bonds, but the life of the facility, which is really 25 years. And we'll be asking the board to do the same. And so when those projects come online, we have to make the commitments to O&M because it's not appropriate to build a facility and then simply let it not be maintained. In addition, I think there's another very important component in this, and that in a number of these projects, particularly some of the larger ones, the county will not be, or any jurisdiction, incurring the operating and maintenance expenses. The YMCA was given as an example. The Tucson Museum of Art is another example. We have the Desert Museum, Air and Space Museum, Children's Museum, all of those investments that are capital investments made in publicly owned properties operated by a nonprofit. That nonprofit has agreed to assume the operating and maintenance cost.
Mhm. Okay, and I guess you answered, so that packet, that schedule of all of the projects and when they're laid out, when did you say that was coming in?
It is attached to the bond implementation plan that will be before the board in either late June or early July of this year.
Okay, and
And much of that information is kind of available. A lot of the draft project sheets, if you go through them, will have those things listed. And now we go back and reconfirm with the participating jurisdictions and even our own staff, if what the bond committee has approved gets built, exactly what are the O&M implications and cost, and that will be included in this implementation plan.
okay, and I guess finally, on the open space purchases, when you calculate the net assessed value, did you consider that $100 million will be coming off the tax roll when those lands are acquired, that's going to reduce our net assessed value?
Madam Chair and Supervisor Miller, we wish those properties were on the rolls at $100 million. They're typically all cattle operations are operating under an agricultural exemption in property taxes. The best example I can give you is back a few years ago, we purchased Canoa Ranch that was now part of the building of the museum, and that was 6,600 acres of ranch land that was paying property taxes equivalent to 4 houses in Green Valley. And so it typically is not an issue.
Okay, so 4 houses in Green Valley have, $200,000 houses, something like that? Okay, okay.
It is, $1 an acre, and so it's just typically has absolutely no impact whatsoever on the tax base.
And you aren't concerned at all about operations and maintenance costs and the impact on our future operations costs on the taxpayer and also on the county, the downward pressure on the county to provide those operation costs to the facilities?
Madam Chair and Supervisor Miller, no, I'm always concerned because that's the struggles that we go through every year when we adopt a budget. But it's an issue that, again, this year, we wouldn't be talking about any reductions or any 2% or 6% or issues with regard to efficiency and operating of a library system or even our park system had we not been, confronted with a legislative transfer of $23 million expenses that we're paying to balance the state budget. So I cannot guarantee you that's not going to happen in the future. But those are the kind of issues that we have to confront on an annual basis when we appropriate money and adopt the budget. And I don't think that we should, ignore our investment obligations just worrying about future O&M.
Okay, we do have the state tax debt. They pay $1 million per day paying off that debt in the state of Arizona. It's $365 million per year. So that's a lot of money for debt there. And I believe we'll probably see more transfers in the future. That's my biggest concern, is that there is no guarantee. And the other thing is there's no guarantee that our secondary, if the secondary property tax rate, right now we have a voluntary cap, and I understand the board approved this in 2004. If it were to go over that, if there was enough pressure on the secondary rate, was it voted on by the board, or is it up to the board?
Yes, Madam Chair and Supervisor Miller, embedded in the bond implementation plan will be a paragraph or two in code that says, here is the rate that the board pledges to maintain. Now, that is then the voluntary pledge of the board. It is an item that historically we have met every year, and I don't think we have any plan on exceeding it.
But it is possible with the vote of the board it could be exceeded, is that correct?
Madam Chair, Supervisor Miller, yes, anything's possible, but if you look at the history, and I've given you a table in the memorandum that says that's varied from 93.5 cents, and that's before we had a pledge. The pledge first came into being in 2004, and since that pledge, that rate has varied as low as 60 cents to 81.5, back down to 78, and now it's at 70 cents. And I don't expect it to change much until, if this bond issue is approved, and then when the first bonds are marketed, probably in 2016 late, we may, and then the 16-17 or 17-18 budget, start to move that tax rate up toward the cap of 81.5 cents, because it's going to get there pretty quickly when we issue 10-year debt on roads at $35 million a year.
Okay, that was one of my questions, is the time frame of the debt for the road, so it's 10 years. And then you had a column on that page 17 diagram, you have future bond sales, and you had them in 14, 15, all the way out to 2017. I assume those are current bond obligations that we have. It's the far left column on table 6.
Yes, Madam Chair.
And it totals 40.6 million. Where are the bonds from 1997 HERF? Are those included in there?
Madam Chair and Supervisor Miller, this table represents general obligation bonds of the county, and so HERF bonds are a complete separate table and issue, so it's a revenue bond, so they aren't going to show up in this table.
Gotcha.
And if you look at 14-15, that's what the recent sale has been, where we just recently got rated, and so that's already sold. And then we're looking at really about $20.6 million in additional sales from authorizations in primarily 2004.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Holliday and Supervisor.
Madam Chair, thank you. You know, I've been wrestling with the question of whether or not to put this on the ballot, as many of you in the audience already know, for the last probably 8 to 9 months. And I want to actually thank all those that spoke both in favor and against the bond today, because we've heard some very articulate and very good arguments. And thank you all for being here, because that shows how important you believe that this bond is to the future of this community. Part of what I've been saying during that time has been that a bond that doesn't deal with what I perceive to be two of the top issues in our region wasn't a bond that could move forward. And that was roads and jobs. 2 weeks ago, or 2 meetings ago, I offered staff direction to add roads into this bond package to the tune of, at this point, follow Mr. Huckleberry's recommendation of $160 million. But part of that also is as Supervisor Elias mentioned before, both he and I have a high percentage of our district that are in incorporated jurisdictions. In my case, obviously, Tucson, South Tucson, Sahuarita. So that we had to make sure that these same rules that prohibited us from being able to spend the $5 million we've placed in general fund monies in the Department of Transportation budget over the last 2 years didn't apply, because frankly neither of us could support it if that was the case. I'm happy to see the recommendations, and frankly part of what we had insisted during that staff direction is that the financing made sense. And what I mean by that is, when you buy a car, you finance it for a period of 5 years. Well, you don't want to have the car all used up and have to buy a second car. Meanwhile, you're paying off the first. So it was important to me, and I believe many members of this board, that the debt period for those road maintenance also coincided with the life of the road. Now, let me say that again, because it's going to be misconstrued over and over during the discussions. The life of the debt will be shorter than the life of the repairs that are being made with those monies. That is very important to me. I think that part of the decision that we have today is the vision that we all have for this community. And I think you've heard us allude to the fact that the state legislature cost shifts now is about $106 million. The primary levy, that's the total that we collect in property taxes, is a little over $300 million. So over a third, or about a third, of our primary property tax levy is not being decided by any of you here, is not being decided by anybody in Pima County. It's being decided in Phoenix. And I think what we're going to see in this this year's tax bill is that we're going to parcel that out so that our taxpayers can see that, you know what, the legislature says we don't raise taxes. Well, tell you what, when you force everyone else to give you part of what they raise for their jurisdictions, for their community, yes, you do. And that's going to become apparent. But the truth is, as I think about it a little more, who should decide the vision for this community? Should it be over on West Washington, or should it be here at 130 West Congress, Tucson, Arizona? I think that needs to be here. I think that needs to be us. Regardless of a yes or a no, we need to decide the vision of this community, not in Phoenix and not at the state capitol. Now, it was suggested earlier that leadership is saying no. I now have 30 years under my belt in the public service, almost 20 of those as an elected official. And I will tell you that no is easy. No is really, really easy. You can always justify no. Is that leadership? Is it leadership? Leadership is not knowing just to say no. Leadership is knowing when it's time to say yes. That is leadership. Because I think the question that we're facing here and is whether or not we are going to give our voters, our community, our county, the opportunity to decide its own fate. As we've done in 1997, 2004, and to a smaller scale in 2006. Now I want you all to imagine what our community would look like if we had said no, no, no. Would that be leadership? Would we look the way we look today? Think about it in terms of open space, in terms of roads, in terms of flood control, which, you know, in my district, there was a huge microburst last year. And because of the Arroyo Chico project, which was in the 2004 bonds, $0 in property damage. Think of what our public safety would look like without PC WIN and law enforcement and first responders being able to communicate. Think of what we'd look like without our citizens having a courthouse from which justice is administered, or making sure that they all have access to it. Envision that community, because that's not a community that I would want to live in. You know, I envision when I was growing up, I was born and raised, and I think Supervisor Elias and I are the two natives on this board. I was born and raised here. And over the years, I've seen many elected bodies talk about doing nothing, and then actually doing it. And I remember the incredible frustration that created inside me and many of my family and friends, because in the end, nothing happened. We have a decision to make today, and that decision is whether or not we're going to move forward, going to move backwards, or we can choose to stay stationary, in which case we don't create any jobs, we don't invest anything in the community, our roads continue to deteriorate from an already failing grade, or we can choose to move forward and give our voters the opportunity, and having faith in them, that they will make the right decision, whatever that's going to be. And I choose the latter. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Supervisor Carroll.
Madam Chair. Madam Chair, over the last year, I've conducted a series of town halls, and there was another chance that I got to take a kind of a road trip with John Bernal. We went to probably 12 different chambers of commerce and business communities together, business community groups, and it went, first number one item was roads. We needed money for roads. We needed a bond question for roads. And that's when I said I wouldn't support a bond election if it did not include roads. My number was $100 million plus 30 for the Sonoran corridor. It turns out now to be $160 million, which I have to support. I also said that I'd like to see the election broken up into 7 questions. So some of the people out here that don't like an item, they can vote against that one and carry the other 6, or vice versa. But I think that we have to guard ourselves now to protect the integrity of this election and this campaign that's coming forward, if the votes are here today, to stop all the misinformation, the innuendo, and the bombast about the falsehoods of what this bond election could mean for our community. We saw the same type of rhetoric during the Proposition 415 for the new animal care center. And I think all these people who are here and who spoke today really need to protect the truth and really need to question things that come unsigned, unreferenced, in the misinformation that's going to be published by newspapers. The editorials and the editors of newspapers don't fact check. It's going to be your responsibility to respond to the emails or the opinions that you get with the truth. And I think it's important that when you look at the 7 questions, there are going to be things that particularly appeal to you, and there are going to be others that don't. Please don't let it perfect get in the way of the good, as I heard earlier today. Make sure you make choices that are best for our community, and remember that all of the business leaders, the community leaders that were here today, I hope will stand firm with also protecting the truth of this campaign. I think that there's been, over the years, too much misinformation unchecked, but at the same time, you have now the responsibility, if you're asking for us to put this ballot measure forward, to help protect the truth, the integrity of this bond election, and I ask you to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. We don't have a motion on the floor, Supervisor Elias.
No, we do.
We do?
Yeah, I just want to, could I make one more comment? You
Sure.
want to talk,
No,
Chairman?
go ahead.
I was just going to say, you know, we've heard a lot of really good, valuable information, I believe, from Supervisor Carroll and Supervisor Valadez, and it's important to know that the debt load that we carry affects all of us, and we know it does deep into the future. But we've also done a good job at retiring the debt that we have in front of us, and our audits have turned out clean, excellent. And that's not coming from an auditor that we hired. That's coming from the Auditor General up in Phoenix. So I think that that's indicative of us having good independent review of what we've done with the 2004 bonds in particular. The 97 bonds, quite honestly, we probably could have done a better job. But we have done a better job since that time. And I think it's important to note that. There was a comment made earlier here about the folks who showed up today being community organizers, and I definitely agree with that. And I saw a lot of people that represent a lot of different constituencies and people who have given themselves to our community for many years in so many different ways. And I appreciate that. In particular, you know, I've worked with a coalition of people who have been supporting affordable housing, neighborhood reinvestment, open space, Job Path, and Living Streets Alliance and the walkability proposal. Particular, in that coalition, I'd like to thank PCIC, Casa Maria, Job Path, and the Coalition for Sonoran Desert Protection, because they've worked hard at organizing people, and I think they've done a really good job. Again, thank you to the committee that heard these issues and heard the numbers. And if you think your bottom is sore after sitting at this hearing for the last 2.5 hours, I can assure you that Larry has been in pain for 9 years in the same region. Fortunately, he has not behaved that way. So my hat's off to the members of the committee and their hard work.
Yeah, it was
especially
not
in all
only
of this.
Larry that's felt the pain.
Exactly. Thank you, Chairman Brown.
All right, and briefly, because we have to convene a budget hearing at 1:30, I echo the Supervisor Elias, Supervisor Carroll, and Supervisor Valadez's comments. I would say that debt instrument isn't my favorite way of doing things, but it is the only tool in our toolbox at this point, and we can't rely on Washington or Phoenix to help us. If we're going to change this community, if we're going to grow this community, if we're going to get ourselves out of this economic recession, it's us that has to do it. And with that, I'll call the question. Roll call.
Supervisor Carroll.
Aye.
Supervisor Elias.
Aye.
Supervisor Miller.
No.
Supervisor Valadez.
Aye.
Chair Bronson.
Aye. Motion carries 4-1. Supervisor Miller voting no. And we are on a time crunch. We do need to have an executive session now. I'd entertain a motion to move into executive.